Welcome to the Fantasy Fangirls podcast, where two sisters dive deep into beloved fantasy lore, characters, themes, theories, and more.
I'm Lexi, older sister and fantasy lore nerd.
And I'm Nicole, younger sister and romantic at heart.
And today is episode 5 as we deep dive Quicksilver by Callie Hart, covering chapters 38 through 43. As always, please listen closely to our spoiler warning. Every episode has spoilers for all of Quicksilver, especially now as we get close to the end, and may reference any of the bonus chapters.
Carrion Swift has been hiding quite the secret, and if you don't know what it is, then this is your warning to please go finish the book. We will not ruin this for you, and we will be here when you're done.
Next, we at Fantasy Fangirls are adults who say adult things about adult books. In other words, friends, this podcast is rated R.
The R rating is more because of the horror show that is Morthil. So please be mindful of those little listening ears. I had a nightmare about Morthil writing this episode.
Callie really said to those giant spiders, "Hold my beer." My goodness. Additionally, we are so excited to see you at upcoming live events.
We cannot wait to host a Brimstone midnight release party, including a live Q&A with Tattered Cover and Booking Gather on November 17th in Denver, Colorado.
And on March 6th through 8th in Dallas, Texas, we will be podcast partners at Dreamers and Readers Festival.
Check out our website or the links below for more information to all of these events, including a promo code for Dreamers and Readers. In addition, welcome Fantasy Fan Fellas to the Fantasy Fangirls Media Network.
Our very own executive producer Hayden and Book Talk star Stephen Walker are launching a new podcast where every week they will dive deep into Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn.
But here's the twist. Hayden is an expert in Sanderson's Cosmere and has already read the Mistborn series.
But Stephen has not, so each episode will only include spoilers up to the chapters covered as Hayden takes Stephen through his first time reading Mistborn.
And you all, we've listened to the first 2 episodes and we were howling with laughter. They are so funny. And the first episodes, yes, plural, air Wednesday, November 5th.
Last thing before we jump into Quicksilver episode 5. If you love Fantasy Fangirls and want more events, more content, more community, and so much more, please check out Fantasy Fan Club.
We have 3 membership tiers that you can join. Number 1, the Hive Mind, which includes access to our Boppin' Discord, live Q&As from Lexi and I, a book club often featuring the authors themselves for live Q&As, community events, promo codes for live events, plus 20% off and access to exclusive merch. That is all for $6 a month. Or you can join the Spice Watchers, which includes everything from the Hive Mind level, plus early access to ad-free episodes, our full episode outlines, which come very much in handy when the next book is coming out in the series. And you also get special voting privileges. That is for $10 a month. And last but not least, we have the Feral Fans, which includes everything from the previous 2 tiers, plus more behind the scenes content, a welcome gift, giveaways, private Discord channel, and your name shouted out on the podcast, all for $25 a month.
Join the party at fantasyfangirls.com/fan club. Annual members also get 2 months off if you want to go that route. The link is in the show notes, and really and truly, thank you so much for supporting us as we've turned this podcast into a dream come true, into a media network. It is all because of you, and we appreciate you so much.
And now it is time to go into the maze.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Literally.
To start off every episode, Nicole does us the honor of summarizing this stretch of chapters. So gather round as we sing Laura's ballad to discuss what happens in chapters 38 through 43 of Quicksilver.
Chapter 38. Awake the next morning, Cyrus is happily sore, but something's not right. Kingfisher is not near the door. He left a shadow gate with a note by her side and left his sword behind with no way for her to reply. Passing through the gate, Cyrus is on a mission to not only save Lane, but Kingfisher for opposition. But oh-ho, the Shadow Gate has a delay. So what if when Lane comes through, it's not just one way? The plan is set. To the town of Gilthry they'll go, in the hopes to save Kingfisher, so he won't reap what he sows. Away in the forge, Cyrus attempts to make a joke, but the Quicksilver only wants what Carrion can invoke. With his dirty joke attempted, it's time to name his blade. He decides on Simon, and no, he he won't be swayed. Back in the library, they all sit and wait for Kingfisher to open yet another shadow gate. The moment he does, and Lane falls through, they jump into action like a well-oiled crew. Carrion, then Saris, and Lorith all fall, but Ren did not make it through the last call. Chapter 39. Saris falls from the sky and smashes the bay. Thank the gods, Lorith is here to save the day. He pulls her from the water and onto the land. Going back for Carrion, this is not what they planned. Everything hurts, but Lorith has herbs. Put them under your tongue and it numbs up your nerves. With their pain now forgotten, it's time for a test. Who can climb up this slippery wall best? It only took minutes for them to reach the top, but the scene before them makes their hearts stop. Hundreds of thousands screaming, Anorath more! Also surprise, Heron is back and ready to settle the score. Chapter 40. Stepping through the terrifying Heron's portal, Saris finds Fisher next to her least favorite immortal. But Malcolm, the vamp, is not the only one here. There's Bellicon and Madra too. Oh dear! Apparently these three have a secret to hide. They're siblings of sorts and all have been allied. And those people from the stands, yeah, they're not just for show. They're due for a bet that's been in limbo from so long ago. Chapter 41. It's finally time. Fisher's gag has been lifted. The story of Gilthry and why its people have persisted. It started with a battle followed by one little trick. Malcolm and his horde versus 7 wolves so quick. As things got messy, Fisher left to find Malcolm on his own, but who he found wasn't so kind. Bellicon was there, a coin in hand. He flipped it once and Malcolm caught it before it could land. With the bet never ending, Fisher was left with no choice but to burn down the village and never speak of it with his voice. He was trapped in a maze for 110 years, but it's finally time for the revenge he holds dear. Chapter 42. After Fisher attacks Bellicon in stride, all hell breaks loose and there's no time to decide. Locked in the battle, they all rush to the door, the maze before them with the obsidian floor. The beginning is easy, only 10 turns with no fight, but the obstacle that comes next is nightmare fuel, all right. Reaching through the Quicksilver, Saris finds the right path, but Malcolm keeps changing it, all for a laugh. When they get to the middle, the goal is so near. Just find the damn coin and then go get a bear. That's far too easy. Remember, this is a test, one only Saris can pass, and Fisher would have never guessed. Carrion is tired of hearing Malcolm talk, loading him for a bite, and boy is he in for a shock. The Dianthus heir is alive and well. His blood is poison thanks to an old spell. The coin isn't here, it's in the beast from before. Saris reaches deep and oh shit, this is too many runes to ignore. Chapter 43. From her runes to her mate and the relic he wears, Malcolm spills all and more of his personal affairs. With the last of her energy, she grabs at her blade, stabbing Malcolm so hard before her consciousness fades. But he doesn't flinch. His magic is strong. He puts his fist through her stomach and she won't last long. With a flick of her wrist, the coin is in the air, playing his own game, not trying to be fair. The coin hits the ground and the souls are released from their eternal bound prison created by this beast. Hooray, hooray, she saved the day of dread. With one last surge, it's off with his head. But it's too late for Saris. She's not going to last. Thank the gods for Taladeus. Let's hope his venom works fast.
It is a classic FFG end of book deep dive.
I love a battle episode.
With one more episode after this.
That's just information overload. Let's try to make sense of it.
All right, friends, it is time to don our pendants and step through the Quicksilver to discuss key insights, character analysis, lore, foreshadowing theories, and oh, so much more. So it's the next day in Ballard. After a romantic and intimate night to themselves, where Fisher accepted the mating bond, Saris wakes up expecting today to be the day. They all being the key word, go to Gilthry to save Everlane. It's a little before 2 p.m., so she and Fisher have time to return to Kalish, meet up with the group, and then go get Everlane before dark, which is a 3-day deadline before she transitions into an enthralled vampire or a feeder. But there's no Fisher here in his mother's old apartment. There's only a shadow gate that's meant for Saris. Understandably, she goes into panic mode. Where is her guy? But at the same time, she just knows in her gut that if Fisher isn't here with her in Ballard, he's left to go to Gilthry on his own. And the letter that he leaves confirms as much. I'll say this, at least he left a note.
Oh, Fisher. I wish I could say I was surprised. But this is also the man who has the largest runed tattoo on him, meaning sacrifice. So it's kind of a tit for tat here. The letter states the shadow gate in front of her in the apartment will take her back to Kalish, and the others and her can wait as he works to bring Lane back as soon as he can, all on his own. And that there won't be much time for Lane before she fully transitions. So tell Ishabal and Taylena to work very, very fast, since she'll be deep in that enthrall and she will want to go back through the gate back to Malcolm. Remember, if she's close to transitioning, that means she will basically be almost at the full bidding of Malcolm. The rest of the note serves entirely as a goodbye letter to tell Lorith to live his life even when Kingfisher is gone. Meaning, Lorith, do not kill yourself if my soul is just hanging out in the ether waiting for yours. He also wants her to tell Ren that he's sorry that he's going behind their backs to do all of this, and that Ren was a standard he always held himself to. That is like one of the most beautiful lines in this book. I love it. And then to Saris, his Osha, he releases her from their oath. Good job, Fisher. Yes, she knows how to make the relics, and a selfish part of him wants her to stay and make all 14,399 of them. But he also knows his mate, and that she will want to go and find Elroy and Hayden to help them. And then, quote, go exploring. There are countless realms out there waiting to be found. Make one of them yours. Hold on. This is so fucking cool. I could totally see that by the end of this series, her and Fisher go realm exploring.
I would love this so much for them. And then they can settle down and give Wendy a relic so she can visit them and make biscuits. It's a cozy fantasy, like, epilogue sequel.
I love how obsessed with Wendy you are. You're like, Wendy's a main character in my epilogue ending.
Yes! But also, I wonder if we'll go to realms that are completely untouched in this series.
I hope we go to a realm fully made of, like, salt. And because she can wield salt and alchemize salt or whatever that means. And then maybe, I don't know what you do in a realm with only salt, but
you make margaritas, that's what you do.
When the realm gives you only salt, you make margaritas. Okay, but this also does bring me to a question, and it's not what flavor of margarita would you have. We know that there's so much more of this realm that we have not seen, but then there's also all these other realms too. Do you think we're going to see a new realm in Brimstone, or do you think we're going to say just Nivelia and Zelvarin?
So I think that other realms will be introduced in Brimstone, but it'll be more for political plot versus where our characters go exploring. I do think that the focus will geographically stay on Zelvarin and this realm in book 2. I think that there is going to be another realm maybe that they do go to, but it will not be a main geographical area.
I agree. I almost want us to stay just Nivelia and Zelvarin next book. I agree on the political ramifications of other realms, especially with the Quicksilver now being opened, especially with silver being such a hot commodity, with fears.
Alchemists being in other realms as
There's
well.
There's millions out there. We know that. I am going to applaud Callie so hard when I'm going to get her a margarita so hard when she finishes the series, because I'm going to be like, how the fuck did you do this? That's amazing.
Well, shoot, I was going to offer to make a bet to see if there is another realm as a new big geographical area next book. But do you not want to make that bet?
Let's simplify this a little bit. What if the bet was, do we go to a new realm next book?
How about it is, do we spend more than 2 chapters in a new realm next book?
Okay, so here's the formal bet. We spend 2 chapters or more in a new realm next book. Lexi says no. Nicole says yes. I'm also pretty sure that every single one of our bets where it's like Lexi says no, Nicole says yes, is that exact breakdown. Lexi says no, Nicole says yes.
Going back to Fisher's note, he says that he hopes that his friends and their families can escape Avelia before the realm falls. I assume this is him being concerned about Belicon and Malcolm taking over the realm. And I realize we have been assuming Saris is to make the relics for his warriors so they can better fight in this war. But the relics are also a plan B to get out of this realm if Malcolm is unbeatable.
The last part of the note states that he believes all things come from the same place, and you return to that place when your life ends. And that is where he will be waiting for his Osha.
Do we think that when people die and they do go back to the same place where all life begins, is that like where we go in chapter 44 with the gods? Or like a version of it? I don't think that particular field.
Okay, because that's kind of what I was thinking. But Mirelle, when she's dead in the end of the gate, part 2, like that last little section with her, Kingfisher almost sees her in front of him, but she's also like, I don't have much time, like I'm going away. So maybe she's going back to that place?
Okay, so the leaves that fall into the Quicksilver River, so to speak, what if souls are all in that river? Not
how
like
very,
a
like, a river of
Hercules, Hades
Styx it
kind
is.
of thing. Not that kind of river, but I mean
I
more
can
of
only
like,
picture Hercules where they're all...
I know, like not like that, like a more happy river of souls.
The Happy River of Souls. What Disneyland ride is that?
It's a small world.
That's where my soul leaves my body. I know that for sure. I do think very similarly, yes. What that means exactly, I don't know, but I think we're on the same page with that, yes. The irony is that this message, he's like, I have no interest in having martyrs for friends. Fisher, you are being a martyr right now, you hypocrite.
Yeah. He's the biggest martyr of them all.
I don't know if this is L. Is this L territory? Nah. He believes he's saving everyone.
No,
I don't think
Fisher
I can give
is
him an
done
L.
getting L's. I will not let him get any more L's.
I will not make that agreement. I will agree that he does not get an L here.
Okay.
I don't know. He actually lied to everyone. Hold on.
No, he is sacrificing himself. Okay, let me get into why Fisher is doing this.
Okay.
So yes, like Nicole said, this is Fisher being the biggest martyr of all, who will always be the first to sacrifice himself and save those he loves. I think he came up with a secret plan the day before versus it being a new decision when he was lying awake, unable to sleep or something. I can just imagine him lying awake in bed being like, my sister is over there with them. I need to go save everybody, like, right now. He knows what he is getting himself into by going to Gilthright, and he doesn't want his loved ones to endure any of the same hell he was tormented with for 110 years. This is why he does not get an L here. He knows that Malcolm kidnapped his sister as a punishment to him. So from Fisher's perspective, the others like Renfus and especially Ceres should not risk their lives for a punishment Malcolm is dishing out for Fisher. Plus, there is the very important reason that Fisher cannot let Ceres risk getting within Malcolm's clutches. She is who Malcolm wants now, so Fisher needs to keep Ceres safe by choosing to go on his own.
All right, I can concede no L for Fisher. Just maybe like a boop on the nose. Like, why'd you do that? Boop, boop.
Yeah, he definitely gets a boop on the nose. Like, you should not have done this. I understand why, but you're being a martyr when you're telling everybody else not to be one.
Absolutely. To say that his friends are extremely pissed is an understatement. Lorith is ready to absolutely cuss Fisher out.
So quick question. Do you think Lorith would listen to Fisher's letter and keep living his life if Fisher's plan here went through? Because I don't think he would listen to Fisher, and he'd want to give Fisher's soul peace instead.
I absolutely 100% agree. Like, he would have been like, great, you made your own plans. I'm going to go make my own plans, dude. Like, there's no way he would have done that. Ren is deeply sad. He's already sad boy hours because of Everlane getting taken, and now he's losing his best friend. He's losing the two people who are closest to him. He's already lost his twin sister. I would be shocked if he believes that there's a universe where Lane would even be able to come back. Like, remember what Ren said to Fisher at the Darn. This is exactly what Malcolm wanted Fisher to do. And he's like, don't be an idiot. Fisher was an idiot.
So Fisher left a note for Ren last night before he left for Ballard with Ceres, saying that the two of them would be back by dusk in time to go on their mission all together to go get Lane. Liar, liar, pants on fire. But I'm curious, does this mean that he can lie in writing but not lie speaking? This whole unable to lie concept is a little inconsistent, though these Fae have mastered the art of loopholes, so I'm going to rely on that.
My guess is there's some way that he wrote it where it was very loopholey, because I would be shocked if he's able to write in lies. But maybe,
right?
I guess
like he is saying that he will bring Lane back by dusk, so maybe that's what he like means by it. I don't know.
Mean, he technically does. Well, then there's Ceres, who in true Ceres fashion is, yes, deeply sad, but she's masking it with pure unadulterated anger. She's fucking livid at Fisher for making this decision. Remember when she was so pissed at him for making all of their decisions in the Oracle chapter for like the rest of their lives? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, are we sure Fisher doesn't deserve an L? Are we
No,
sure?
he has good intentions, and that does not get an L.
A lowercase one. Wait, hold on. Are you fucking kidding me? Good intentions and doesn't get an L? Might I remind you of a very recent book we just covered where that was not the case? No, L. He gets an L for this.
I will allow a extra small lowercase, but you do not get to write it down. It is
9-point font L's still count,
no,
Lexi.
no, don't give him an L for this. He thinks that he does not want any of the others to have to go through this punishment. Think about what he knows he is getting himself into. They do not know.
Fine. I probably will come back to it, but for now, I concede.
Our listeners tell us we're already giving Fisher too many L's. I have to defend him.
I have not read a single comment like that.
Are you serious? Yes. They're all in our Discord. Like, it is a very regular thing.
Oh my God. I'm just saying, if I was Sarah's, I would be fucking livid if I only had a one-way shadow gate and no way to contact my love. I would be so mad.
I would be too, yes. Well, especially when we do take into account that she has walled herself up from feeling this kind of devastating emotion. She purposefully doesn't get close to people so she can't get hurt. And here she is falling in love, knowing that they're mates, and him still choosing to walk into danger unarmed and alone. For everybody's good. So our group comes up with a new plan with the help of Fisher's instructions in his letter to them. He will inevitably conjure a new shadow gate to send Everlane through once he gets her. Ishabel will have to sedate Lane the second she's through the gate because Lane will be enthralled and she will try to get back to Malcolm. So the number one goal is to stop Lane from trying to go back through the gate, or this will all be for nothing. Ishabel and Tylena have set up a space to treat Lane. Ishabel will keep Lane sedated with a spell until Tylena can suppress Malcolm's venom in Lane's blood long enough to start healing her body. Therefore, together, they break his enthrallment on her and heal her from the venom so she will not become a feeder. Only thing is, this has never been done before. The cure for the blood curse, which is what Malcolm is infected with, was lost over 1,000 years ago. Oh, like with the death of Rurik Dianthus and the disappearance of Finrin? Yeah? But even still, that long-lost cure is different from what Lane has experienced. She's been bitten by a cursed vampire, and it's unknown if she'll survive before she can even be healed. Oh, what if the cure for the blood curse is rediscovered, and it actually can help the turned vampires that will now be Ceres's subjects? And even Tal and Ceres can be cured and not be vampires anymore.
This is feeling a little too simple. I don't think that's gonna happen.
Oh my gosh, how are we back to a deep dive where we're trying to analyze a cure for something? Anyway, back to the plan at hand. Our group realizes that shadow gates are a two-way portal, haha! And the gate has a delay and stays open seconds after its intended transport goes through, like Ceres just proved when she went through the shadow gate from Ballard to Kalish. Which means, as soon as Fisher sends Everlane through the shadow gate, Ceres, Renthis, Lorth, and Carrion can immediately use it to get to where Everlane was. That way they can rescue Fisher in Gilthray.
With the new plan in place, and now just having to wait for Lane to show up, they might as well do something useful with that time. Like make Carrion a fancy sword per his request to take him on their venture. Pause. What do you think is happening in Carrion's mind here? Do you think he wants to go solely so he can see Malcolm? Like he's been planning in his head to get Malcolm to drink from him so that the Dianthus blood will weaken him, and he's like, this is my time!
I think a version of that. I think that when he did come here and is kind of like taking this all in and whatnot, he is learning about Malcolm just a little bit, right? Yeah, and once when he does get in front of Malcolm, Ceres will note how quiet Carrion is up until a point. I think he'll be evaluating and strategizing his moves carefully. And here he is preparing for that moment.
Well, speaking of preparing, I think one of the reasons he wants a fancy sword, other than, just to have a fancy sword, is because he's planning on hopefully killing Malcolm once and for all should the opportunity arise.
Well, his blood is technically supposed to kill Malcolm all on its own.
True, but I think that having an extra sword to off with his head isn't bad.
I think having a sword in general going into this shit show is a good idea.
True.
But yes, I agree.
Well, Carrion does indeed get his own sword, and oh my god, it's the most Carrion sword you can ever imagine. The Quicksilver wants a joke in exchange for bonding with the already made metal, since they did not have time to make a sword from scratch like they did with the Vizioth. But what joke finally bonds it? I'm quoting the whole thing. Quote, a husband turns to his wife one day and says, you know, I bet you can't think of anything to tell me that will make me both happy and sad at the same time. The wife doesn't even have to think about it. She turns to her husband and says, your cock is way bigger than your brother's. This had me absolutely howling when I read this for the first time. And when Saris asks Carrion what the sword's name is, he says, Simon. It looks like a Simon. So I was curious what the name Simon meant. And it means to listen, to hear. Could this be hidden meaning because he's been listening and hearing everything going on in Nevelia for, waiting for his time? Maybe. I think it's just a perfect name for Carrion's sword.
I like to think it's both. And it's kind of ironic that Simon the Sword wants to hear jokes. Get it? Maybe Simon is a name of an old friend of Carrion's from, over his 1,000 years in Zelvarin, and he's somehow honoring his friend. But yeah, I do think it's just a funny name for a sword. Like how Fisher's horse is named Bill.
While we're on Bill, I didn't realize Bill was a Lord of the Ring reference.
Yes, it is. Oh my gosh, I love all of Callie's Lord of the Ring references.
I was just like, Bill's such a funny name for a horse, and I had no idea it was a Lord of the Rings reference because someone always names their horse Bill, and I can't remember who it is. Is it Pippin?
It's Samwise Gamgee. He has a horse named Bill. Yeah.
Aww, yeah. That's so wholesome and not at all why I think Fisher names his horse Bill. Anyway, but something quite interesting happens after the sword is forged. Saris asks if the sword gifted Carrion magic. Quote, in spite of his frail human blood, which is hilarious because he is neither frail nor human. But he also says that little bit of info is for him and Simon to know and for Saris to find out. Do you think Simon's a god sword?
So it's very interesting that you ask that because when I finalized the library section for God Swords a few episodes ago, I debated keeping Simon in there. Brooke included the sword when we were listing off all the God Swords for the very same point that you make here. But I made the last minute change and cut it because we aren't for certain. And yet I have been very wishy-washy on that decision since, wondering if Simon does indeed count as a God Sword. These are the things that keep me up at night. So I will say it does not have the same magical elements as Lorth's sword, with the bright light going up into the sky and even the aurora. That's not even the angel's breath magic. It was the magic when it was being created and essentially the magic was channeled into the sword. I think I'm going to stick with my conclusion that Simon is not a god sword. I do believe Simon has magic in it though, especially because the Quicksilver is activated within it. Simon's just got to have magic. It knows exactly what Fey royal heir it's claimed, and I can see that being why it has some magic here. But I do think that it is not a god magic channeled sword, which I imagine is next level. So it's like Simon is the equivalent of a true mating bond, while god swords are like god bound mates. I wonder if it has the ability to turn into a god sword.
Okay, this is very interesting because I am about willing to die on the hill that it is a god sword right now. It's just not doing anything yet. Based off what logic? The logic of vibes, Lexi. The logic of vibes. I am almost so certain that I'm almost willing to make a bet with you solely based off vibes.
I will make a bet with you right now, yes.
Okay, that Simon is a god sword.
Yes, I do still think that it has some magic in it, but it is not a god sword.
I didn't think that there was I thought the sword was either magic / god sword or a sword.
Well, we just don't know that.
I think that's a Callie question for when we talk to her. So here is the official bet. Is Simon a god sword? Lexi says no. Nicole says yes. Shocking.
Because later on when they're in Gilthry and Malcolm dies, the other god swords come to life with their magic and everything, but Simon does not.
Maybe Simon might be just a lurker. He's just waiting in the background for something to happen Like Carrie and Swift.
All right, that's very possible, yes.
While we are talking about the possibility of God Swords, I do want to discuss a brief exchange we get with Mirelle during the last part of the chapter, The Gate Part 2. She mentions how the God Swords are going to start failing over time. This was hundreds of years ago. We know that the God Swords started dying out around the time that the gods left Avelia, and that's why they were all left dormant. Except for Solace, which is very much alive right now, and I'm guessing Simon. And
Solace is kind of, it's like flickers.
Solace stopped time last episode. Are you fucking kidding me?
But it's not like continually active, like 24/7 right now.
I'm gonna remind you of that when I get to the end of this episode.
I know, and then it flickers out, and then the magic goes dormant again.
Lexi, that does not mean it's sometimes a God Sword and sometimes
No,
not.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that sometimes it has active magic, and sometimes the magic is dormant.
It stopped time last episode.
Yes,
What are you
I know, and that
talking
is when the magic activated, and now it is dormant again, and then it will activate again, and then it goes dormant again.
I thought I knew you. I thought I considered us same brain. But oh my God.
Why? Have you seen how many bets we have? Why would you think that?
Because I love you, older sister.
Oh.
Okay, anyway, we can both agree that Nimmerel is a God Sword, right?
Yes, of course.
Thank God. But why did Nimmerel keep its magic all of this time? Well, it's not necessarily because the gods willed it, although I definitely do think that's part of it. Instead, it's because, this is a quote from Mirelle, the small kernel of magic that my soul possessed, whatever it was worth, now belongs to that sword. It will help you when you need it. And then she's cut off. When you need it most, which is concerning because when do you need it most? I don't think we've seen it yet. I'm guessing that this means just like Fisher gave Lorith a piece of his soul, this is what Mirelle is doing for Nimmerel. But this also means that she will always still be a part of the Lupa Proelia, which is just so beautiful. I want more Mirelle. Why is she dead?
With the group all together in the library, suddenly a shadow gate opens up above them, and Everlane falls out, crashing from up above down onto the table and breaking the table. What the heck? The gate is not vertical like every other time where it's like a door that you walk through. No, this time the gate is horizontal and 10 feet in the air. It's like a hole in the ceiling. With the table smashed and in pieces on the ground, the crew has to think quickly in order to get through before it closes. Ceres grabs the sword Solace, and in the meantime, Carrion is hoisted up by Lorith and Ren. Once he's about halfway through, Carrion is suddenly pulled upward and vanishes through the gate. Before Ceres is completely lifted up and sent through, Everlane warns her about the water. But it's too late to process what in the world that means as Lorith and Ren throw Ceres into the shadow gate. I can picture this so clearly, just whee! The second Ceres passes into the gate, there's nothing to ground her, nothing to hold on to. With a disorienting shift in gravity, Ceres is falling into a big lake. Fun fact, when we were doing the clues that Quicksilver was going to be our next deep dive, Nicole accidentally shared something that was definitely a typo that was falling when it was supposed to be fall 2025, but she accidentally put falling 2025. Of course, everybody thought that was the Ballad of the Falling Dragons. No, it wasn't. But look, we were able to make it like, oh, look, Ceres is falling at some point. Anyway, that's the chaos that goes behind when we do the clues.
My fingers sometimes just have a mind of their own. They know the clues before I do.
The funniest thing is, that's the second time that's happened.
I know everything is a clue, Lexi. Everything is a clue.
Lorith also joins in the icy plunge, but unfortunately the shadow gate closes before Renfis is able to make it through. So Carrion, Ceres, and Lorith are here in Gilthride to save Fisher. Renfis is back in Kalish with Taylena and Ishabal healing Lane.
I don't think Renfis would be that mad. He gets to stay with his girl and make sure she's okay. I think that's good.
I agree. I'm sure he kind of wishes that he was there to avenge her, but yes, I agree that he's able to be there and be safe with her. Before we keep going, Nicole and I are both very curious how Fisher got Lane up into the shadow gate in the first place. It's like, whee!
I like the football throw.
So we decided to put ourselves out of our misery. Actually, I don't know, this is pretty fun speculating, but we decided to reach out to Callie to ask how in the world this worked from Fisher's end. And this is what she had to say. Oh, wouldn't you like to know? Haha. I anticipated a whole slew of questions about this as soon as people finish the book. But I have to say, you guys are actually the first. All right, go us, Nicole. What? I'm very surprised to hear that. Callie goes on. Suffice it to say, there is a reason why and how Everlane traveled back to Kalish this way. You'll find out very soon. Winky smiley face.
I want to go back to all of our college Callies when we get Brimstone and just be like, check, check, check. I can't wait to see Everlane next book and be like, how did you know? How did you do this? How did you fly? Funny thing about living in a desert your whole life, you never learn how to swim, which when you're falling 80 feet and landing in a giant lake, it's not great. Slamming into the water belly flop style, Saris is as good as done for. She doesn't know how to swim, and she has at least one broken rib. Like, have you ever done a belly flop off of, like, do you remember that high dive in Oklahoma that we used to go to with Grandma and Grandpa?
I have done belly flops, and they are very painful.
Yes, same. And that was like 20 feet in the air. This is 80. For those who have never had a broken rib like myself, here is what a broken rib feels like. It is a sharp... Have you had a broken rib?
Yes, I have broken my ribs from when I got bucked off my horse and I broke 2 ribs, and my trainer made me get back on the horse anyway and keep riding, and it was extremely painful. So it's a sharp, intense pain whenever you breathe or move. It is very painful, especially when you get back on your horse. And now add falling off an 80-foot diving board into a lake of water, and you don't know how to swim.
But at least Lorith is to the rescue, unlike Lexi's trainer from her cowboy years, because he cannonballed himself into the lake rather than belly flopped like Carrion and Saris. Her body is jerked towards the shoreline, and after vomiting up a lake's worth of water before Lorith goes back and gets Carrion, luckily they are all saved. One of my favorite parts of this entire book is when Carrion is unconscious from swallowing too much lake water, and in order to wake him up, Sarah says, quote, "Carrion Swift, if you don't wake up right now, I'm going to tell all of your asshole friends back in the third that you were a shitty lay." And then nothing happens. And then she goes, quote, "I mean it." And that's when he wakes up. Everyone's alive.
And to counter those broken ribs from hitting that water on impact, Lorith has these leaves called Widow's Bane. You chew the leaves and put them under your tongue, and your pain will be deadened for a few hours. But Widow's Bane has this ominous name because they are highly addictive and can make you feel like the king of the world, where you take it to dull the pain of an injury. But if you keep taking it, you'll inevitably die. I think from the injuries, not the Widow's Bane leaves themselves, right? Yeah. In any case, whatever you do, don't swallow them. All I can think of is Kingfisher saying, swallow. But don't swallow this, or you will shit yourself. What terrible timing that would be going into battle.
I don't know. I feel like battle already smells bad. I feel like it would at least not be like the worst thing.
I personally do not want to have the runs when I am running into battle, but Nicole apparently doesn't mind. Wow! Craig! Wow! I learned something new about you today,
I
Nicole.
just feel like there's
Nicole, just wear a diaper into battle, everybody. It's fine. I've had 2 children. I know I would pee myself anyway.
Oh my god. I personally would be terrified to take Widow's Bane because I feel like I would just treat it like gum and I would accidentally swallow it. And right now, with what they're doing, that is not what they need. If you're going into battle, though, I think it's okay.
All of this to say, yay, Saris's pain is temporarily gone. She's able to focus on their situation. Let's fucking go!
Step 1 complete. Next step, climb up the obsidian cliff face, which Saris knows Fisher is on the other side of, because she can feel him through their mind-to-mind bond. Luckily, while 2/3 of our crew cannot swim, all 3 are good climbers. And thank the Corcoran, everyone scales up the cliff face and makes it safe in minutes. But something rather odd happens. The sky is raining ash. Ash fell from the sky. Anyone?
Shameless plug for Fantasy Fan Fellows launching this Wednesday with episodes 1 and 2 of Mistborn. Here at the top of the cliff, our crew comes upon quite the sight.
Rising up around them, facing the lake, is a massive amphitheater, and in the deep pit below is a sprawling labyrinth filled with sharp obsidian walls. And on the other side of the labyrinth is a dais that Saris can feel Fisher is at. But what of this raucous crowd? In the stands are hundreds of thousands of people. But upon a closer inspection, Cyrus notices that they are not the enthusiastic sport fans she expected, saying, "Keep it 100, people!" No.
Like Amberin!
Oh, see, I was making a Travis Kelce Taylor Swift reference, and you were making an actor reference.
That checks out, yeah.
No, instead, they are burned, still smoldering Fae, with their mouths fixed into horrific screams, while their eyes are melted to gelatin and running down out of their sockets. Good God! Good Corcoran! Oh my goodness! And they are all chanting, "Enerath more! Enerath more!"
Ah, we've heard this phrase once, twice, many times already in this book. And now we finally learn the source of this Anarath more, or at least the source that we know of. It's right here that Lorth shares what this phrase that the hundreds of thousands of burning, suffering people are screaming. Anarath more translates to release us. As we'll soon find out, these people in the stands are the citizens of Gilthry. They are the people Kingfisher tried to save before he had to burn them alive so they would not become Malcolm's feeder army and take over Yvelia. This is Malcolm's twisted punishment for Fisher. Sure, the maze and finding the coin itself is awful, but the people Fisher tried to save, stuck burning and suffering forever in this limbo between life and death, who Fisher technically lit the match to kill, begging down at him for over a century, release us! For Fisher the martyr, this is a living nightmare as he tries to release them by finding the coin.
Pause, because as we learn the meaning of Anarath more, immediately, as if the words are translated into her mind, she hears, "Release us, release us, release us." Is it just me, or is this a little sus? Like, I'm assuming that Anarath more is Old Fae. But if they are speaking Old Fae, how is the phrase immediately translated in her mind?
So I thought it was more of like a Quicksilver communication nod. Like, it doesn't matter what language the Quicksilver can translate because of its connection with Cyrus.
Okay, see, I was leaning towards Cyrus equals Fae hint, but I actually think yours makes more sense.
Not only do we have this crazy scene in front of us and the reveal of the mysterious meaning behind Anarath more, Heron is back? Yes, Heron, the guy from the beginning of this book, back in Zelvarin, the human captain of Madra's guard, again, who is supposed to be dead and in Zelvarin. But he looks a little different from the last time we saw him in Madra's Hall of Mirrors, being basically devoured by the melted blade with Quicksilver in it. For one, he's alive, which in hindsight maybe shouldn't be a huge surprise after the hints we got about how he can't die. Here outside the labyrinth, we see Heron with eyes of pure Quicksilver that are swiveling around in his eye sockets. His lips are thin and peeling. His teeth are shattered. His skin is wrinkled and translucent. Heron's not looking so good, friends. I figured this is all a consequence of the Quicksilver and the magic keeping him immortal. Like his body wants to die so badly, but he just can't.
Oh, poor Heron. See, I just figured the Quicksilver, like, embedded itself into him, but I think we're both right. I think the Quicksilver embedded it into his mind, his eyes. That's why literally his eyes are just silver. But I didn't put that together with the fact that his teeth are shattered and his skin's all wrinkly and translucent, peeling. Poor Heron.
Poor Heron. I love how we're rooting for him so much.
I'm rooting for him so hard. I hope he finds death so peacefully.
And at Heron's back are 300 feeders, hungry and ready to attack. Heron explains that our crew's presence is needed. The games are about to begin, and don't they want to say goodbye to their dear friend Fisher? So Heron conjures a vortex, more on that in a moment, which will take Cyrus, carrying Lorth, and I suppose Heron to the other side of the labyrinth where the dais is, and where Fisher is being held. Remember that Fisher's shadow gate cannot work in the maze, which again makes me really wonder how Everlane got out of there. Oh, wait, I have a theory. What if Tal helped her escape out of there? Or I suppose they were already on the outskirts of the labyrinth with Lane, waiting for Fisher to arrive. Okay, so this is what I think happened. So everybody was outside of the labyrinth, and somehow, some way, Fisher got Lane out of there, so he like flings her on up into the shadow gate, and then they transported Fisher to the other side with this dais here.
See, all I can see is Fisher picking up Lane and like throwing her through the air, literally like, "I believe I can fly," like that.
Yeah, to get her away from them. Anyway, this vortex is evil, it is bad magic, and it works off the death power here. That is why this magic is able to work.
Let's go back to Heron, because what's odd, or at least one of the millions of parts that's odd about this man right now, is that he doesn't seem to have fully lost his mind, because if he does have the Quicksilver taking over, he's not having the same hallucinations in the way that Fisher is having with his own Quicksilver. Instead, it seems almost like Heron has become fully Madra's in every sense of the word. Like he's a walking soldier for her, even more so than he was at the beginning of this book, which is saying something. He's always done her bidding, but there are little moments here and there where we almost wondered if he was rebelling against the mind control, quote unquote. But that is so gone. So gone.
I wonder if there's a difference between Heron getting consumed by the Quicksilver from the blade versus how Fisher was submerged in it when he went through a portal without a relic. Or maybe what has happened to Heron is what would have happened to Fisher if the gods did not save him and he struck a deal with the Quicksilver/gods. But then there's the whole thing about how Heron is human, yet is still 1,000 years old and controlled by magic. I don't know. He's such a big question mark. Anyway.
I agree with, before you made my head hurt, I agree with the section about the fact that Fisher is keeping parts of his mind because he has made an extra deal with the gods and the Quicksilver and stuff like that. And I'm guessing they're not offering that exact same extension of help to Heron. Because poor Heron.
Heron's not as important as Fisher.
No. I think Heron might be one of the most tragic characters in this entire book, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, back to my theory I brought up last episode. What if Madra is an alchemist and she is actually now controlling Heron through the Quicksilver that has taken over him?
Okay, yep. I'm slowly coming on board, mostly, with this.
Well, I'm going to bring it up about 15 million times this episode. So
I'm also curious, what if the alchemist that Malcolm said was very talented way back when, that we'll definitely be talking about here soon, what if she or a different alchemist granted Madra and Heron immortality?
Maybe. I'm going to come back to that later, but maybe. I could see that. Now, there's another part that's very curious with Heron here, because he seems to have power over the feeders, like crawling up the cliff face right now. Note, these are not the same feeders as the people in the amphitheater. Those are the charred feeders. These feeders are fresh. They're a nice crisp apple in fall. Their clothes are dirty but intact. Their flesh is still on their skin. Yummy. And it also makes them no less terrifying. Great.
I don't know, the burning people with their eyes melting out of their sockets is definitely haunting.
The word gelatin didn't need to be used there, Kelly, except for it makes it so vivid. Question about these people climbing up the cliff face, though. Are they from the Winter Palace?
Very concerned that they are. Yes.
We guessed from last episode that a few of the feeders attacking on the Darn were from the Winter Palace because they literally were described as wearing the same clothes and apron as people from the Winter Palace, which made us absolutely panic as to what the hell happened. We can assume that this was the same attack where Everlane was taken to Malcolm, but I strongly wonder if that's who's climbing up this mountain and they're fresh because they would have joined the feederdom less than 3 days ago.
So we're very concerned about the people at the Winter Palace, especially my boy Rosarius. So we asked Callie if these fresh feeders are from the Winter Palace. And this is what she said. You guys ask great questions, but I can't actually answer any of them. I'm a locked vault when it comes to spoilers, I'm afraid. If it isn't explained already, it will be later. Another winky smiley face.
I love that Callie's like, how many ways can I say if it's not in the book, you're not supposed to know it? We love you, Callie. We'll keep asking. However, this doesn't really answer the question as to how the hell is Heron controlling these feeders, because he literally tells them to stop and they're like, they stopped and stay. I have a few theories. Number one, if the Quicksilver is essence of the gods, would he have a godlike power over those whose minds are fully lost, like feeders? Number two, and I think that this is more likely, if Madra is the one controlling Heron because she's an alchemist, would she somehow also have the power over feeders? Actually, I'm scratching the hole. This feels more likely because she's human, and I use that term very lightly. She would not have turned these feeders, so she shouldn't have power over them. This brings me to a third option that I'm actually going to say is the most probable of the three. Is Malcolm also controlling Heron and all three of the triumvirate have the power over him? And Malcolm is the one channeling through Heron because he would have turned these feeders or turned the people who turned these feeders. Therefore, he would have power to then channel into Heron to then channel to the feeders.
Something along those lines. Malcolm having some kind of control or channeling through Heron would explain Heron freaking out about the obsidian earlier in the book, too, and him being able to control the feeders in this moment and do magic that we're seeing here with the vortex. I think that the way he is controlled in general and has such a long life is tied to Madra. He does confirm that later. So I think you're right with the triumvirate and the power and a little bit of an extension in that way. Through the terrifying vortex, our crew goes. Like we've been saying, it seems like Heron conjured the vortex by reaching out his hand, and it trembles with effort before he creates this vortex. They've been transported to the foot of the dais that is now within the amphitheater, and it looks out over the labyrinth. So they're not in the maze yet. They've moved from the cliffside outskirts of the maze to the opposite side of it. Here, ash still falls. This place is most definitely a graveyard, where I'll call it good magic, life magic, can't reach because it's all just death here. Surrounding them are these stands, rows and rows of those hundreds of thousands of burning fae of Gilthry trapped in their misery. Before we get into who is on the dais, I've got good news, friends. We found Fisher. Bad news is he's in real bad shape. At the foot of the dais, he is on his knees and covered in blood. His leather armor is slashed, and bolts of energy occasionally go through him, causing him terrible pain. Malcolm's magic is keeping him trapped right now here too, and Fisher is terrified that the people he tried to keep from coming here, who he sacrificed himself to protect, god damn it, they're here to rescue him. This martyr is like, no! Especially because he knows how much Malcolm wants Ceres, and he cannot let the vampire get his hands on Fisher's powerful alchemist mate.
This makes me so sad, especially when Fisher's voice sounds so defeated in Ceres's mind. It's like, Fisher, no! Poor boy. In addition to an extremely beaten down Fisher, we have some other faces we have seen before, but definitely not all together on the page.
That's for sure. Oh my goodness.
Bellicon, the Fae King of Avelia, Malcolm, the Vampire King of Senesroth, and Madra, the Human Queen of Zilvarin and the Silver City.
Okay, let's wrap our brains around how these three, who have seemingly been against each other, are actually working together and call each other brother and sister. By the way, I love the subtle description of Carrion blanched looking at all three with so much hatred. Yeah, these three are responsible for his parents dying and him being in hiding all his life. So first we have Bellicon, who admits here that Yavelia and Senesroth have not actually been at war all this time. Bellicon has been feeding Malcolm's army. Like we've been saying all book, this is a lose-lose cycle for the warriors holding Senesroth back all these centuries. There's always more feeders to kill them, always more of the enemy growing, and the good side's numbers dwindle. Plus, Bellicon has purposefully not been helping his people of Yavelia in this war to make it easier for Malcolm, not providing them with resources like food, supplies, weapons, silver. Yep, because silver is the only thing that can permanently kill Malcolm's army, so Bellicon has had it embargoed. Therefore, there's a hell of a lot less of the material that can weaken Malcolm, paving the way clearer for his success. Why arm warriors with weapons when he doesn't actually want the enemy dead? Bellicon and Malcolm have been working together since before the Blood Curse. I have some major questions about Bellicon's immortality in that case too, because Malcolm is thousands and thousands, generations of Fae old. As far as we knew before this, Bellicon was a normal Fae.
That's a head scratcher.
It sure is. And since it was Carrion's father whose blood first created the Blood Curse, and he was the one who discovered the cure to the Blood Curse, Bellicon usurped Ruick Dianthus and killed the whole line, supposedly, because Ruick was the key to ending Malcolm. So Bellicon and Malcolm have been in this together since the beginning. I have no idea how Madra fits into all of this, though, because she came to power after her human father, the King of Zilvarin, died only 1,000 years ago. So I'm going to put a pin in that for right now.
Well, let's talk about Malcolm. Next is the Vampire King himself. We've talked so much about this asshole who is eons old. No one likes an eon old asshole. He was the first Fae with the Blood Curse, and when presented with the cure from Ruick and the Balkadir clan, he turned it down because he loved being a vampire with all the power and the immortality. He liked it far too much. He's the most working out in the open of the three of his siblings, considering he's the head of the Senesrothian army, who Avelia has been fighting for, hundreds of years. Lastly, And certainly not leastly, we have the wild card, literally not from this realm, Madra. Now, Fisher knew about Bellicon and Malcolm working together because of the coin toss bet that we will get all up into in a moment. He was not able to talk about it, though, because of the blood oath he made to Bellicon and Malcolm. But Madra is brand new information for everybody. I'm assuming because from what it sounds like, they have not seen her in about 1,000 years since she stilled the Quicksilver.
True, that's what I gather here too, with how they talk about the triumvirate being reunited and now being more powerful than they've been in an age.
But that leaves me with a million questions.
Me too.
Most specifically, how the fuck did she get here? If she is human, that's a big if. She's human. How would she have gone through the Quicksilver? I'm assuming that's how her and Heron got here.
Yes, because she'll also leave going through the Quicksilver too, so she has to have her own relic. That's not my biggest question. My biggest question is the fucking timeline.
So because we have the author on our side, hopefully still, not at the end of this deep dive, we decided to ask Callie, can she give us any hint about how Madra and Heron were transported to Gilthry? And she said, quote, "You can probably already guess what I'm going to say. Haha. Before I wrote one word of Quicksilver, I sat down and spent a long time plotting out all 3 books in the series. There are threads of the story that begin within the very first chapter of Quicksilver, like someone who's gasping in the corner. Callie goes on to say that have through lines all the way to the very end of the final book. I'd always been a pantser when it came to my writing, but this time I went deep and planned every tiny little detail. It was a lot of fun, and it's fun now too, knowing people are pulling on some of those threads, trying to unravel them. That means I've hopefully done my job properly, but I'm not about to ruin the tapestry for you."
I have another question here, because does that mean that the Quicksilver pools are all open? Because Madra should not be able to activate the Quicksilver right now. I guess it's not about the relic, it's about the Quicksilver being activated.
But I'm guessing the Quicksilver is activated because her and Fisher went through it, and then Fisher went back through it.
But remember, he said that she has to close it, otherwise anybody can get in and out of any realm.
I thought that was just like per Quicksilver gate. So like, for instance, I'm locking this door right here to my office, but that does not suddenly mean all of my doors in my apartment are locked. So I assumed when she like closed it in Evalia, that was like locking one door, but all of the other doors were still open.
Okay, so what you're saying is that when Ceres pulls Solace out of the Quicksilver in Zelvarin, that is what unlocked all of the Quicksilver pools throughout all of the realms, and now they are able to be activated or deactivated, or they are automatically activated, and then they have to go back through and deactivate it.
Yes, but then how would the Quicksilver pool at Evalia been deactivated when she went to it?
Exactly.
I don't know. Okay, no, I have an idea. What if Madra's a fucking alchemist and she opened it herself? Actually, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, yeah, that would make absolute sense, yes. The only other thing I can think of is Heron being a key in some way to opening or not opening.
So let's talk about Heron, because if this is the first time they've all seen each other in 1,000 years, that includes Heron, because he would have been stuck in Zelvarin. How the fuck did he know about the obsidian walls during his obsidian rap at the beginning of this book? How did he know about this place? Like, was it the Quicksilver penetrating him and he was like, hey, there's a place with the stuff?
While we don't learn a lot about this triumvirate, we're only on book 1, we're supposed to be confused, we gotta talk about these 3 powerful regions, and especially why they call each other brother and sister. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't think they are actually related and siblings in the blood relation meaning. So I have 2 half-baked theories. Number 1, as the triumvirate, they are their own unified stronghold, a powerful trio who are close with one another, and as a group, they look out for each other, not unlike how Fisher and his Lupo Paralia call each other brothers. Or number 2, this trio may not be blood related, but I really do think that there is some kind of blood pact or something like that between them, magically linking these 3 together. They may not come from the same mother, but they are connected to each other through blood. Hence why when they're reunited, they're far more powerful together. Bellicon will say that none of the 3 can be killed with a mere blade. Quote, 3 crowns sharing one source. To kill one of us, you must kill us all. Sharing one source? So first of all, this does mean that because they are the triumvirate, they are immortal. And so That would make sense with Bellicon being thousands and thousands of years old and knowing Malcolm back when he got the blood curse. However, how does nobody else know that Bellicon is thousands and thousands and thousands of years old? I have a theory that's a little bit more than half-baked. What if when they created the Triumvirate, their evil magic, this source, is what is killing the universe tree that we will see in chapter 44?
Oh, that's good. Oh, I like that. Because, see, I've always focused on the second half of that quote, which is to kill one of us, you must kill us all, which we'll talk a lot more about next episode. But, oh my God, I love this idea.
Because I think that our crew is going to have to, in some way, shape, or form, I'll say, attack the source.
Yes.
Or there's something with the source here.
Not another fucking source. Human, fae, and vampire all together. I do wondering, not to bring another thing into it, does this have to do with balance? Like the three of them with all their siblings is their own version of balance.
I could definitely see that too. Malcolm will later say that they are immortal and they are gods. So did they start as this trio and become something more thanks to this balance and the dark magic channeled from this one source? Like, in order to do this blood pact or whatever it is that they did, they had to have one of each as that balance.
Ow.
But this is our answer as to why Madra is immortal, or at least kind of an answer. Now we know why she is immortal. She is with this triumvirate, but the how that all happened is still a big mystery.
Whether they are true siblings or not, which I'm also leaning not, these three clearly have quite a bit of history, like thousands and thousands of years maybe of history, most of which we don't know, which makes me want to scream. But we do know that united, they are the most powerful. So again, we can assume that they have not been united in a while. But that would mean that they've been united at some point or another, which makes my head start hurting again, because we know that Madra stilled the Quicksilver about 1,000 years ago when she was 26. And according to the Orlena chapter, nothing made it seem like Madra's been alive for a long time and was eternal. She was just 26 and that was that. Maybe we're not supposed to know that she actually was 20,026, who knows? But did she inherit this triumvirate power from like her parents or something, like her father? And that's who was with Malcolm and Bellicon when they were all three together and they're most powerful. But then Madra didn't like relying on others for power. So she stilled the Quicksilver so that she could have the sliver of the triumvirate power all on her own. And for 1,000 years, that's what she tried to do, but she realized that didn't work.
Going back to her father or her inheriting this triumvirate, there is the Hall of Past Royals, Madra's ancestors. So I have a hard time believing her father was not human with a normal lifespan. I do think that this is something with Madra. I don't know.
I don't know either. But this is something we do know, at least. Because when Madra stilled the Quicksilver 1,000 years ago, Bellicon was pissed off because he relied on the Quicksilver for trade so that he could get silver to hoard on his own. But remember, all of these years, he has used the excuse that was Fisher's father who was the one who stilled the Quicksilver. Turns out that was all a ruse to make the people of Evalia hate and distrust Fisher's family and thus Fisher. He knew all along it was Madra who did the deed. Basically, it was all one big propaganda move from Bellicon so Fisher would be hated and he could not speak out against it. Fuck you, Bellicon.
Fisher didn't know about this until 110 years ago, though.
Correct.
Yes. With how these three are clearly very familiar with each other, besides just calling each other brother and sister. Madra says how Malcolm has always had an affinity for cruelty, and that Malcolm always lets her play with his toys. But it was during her coronation night when she was 26 that we've been saying that she stilled the Quicksilver. So, did they all connect beforehand? Like, I bet that she has something to do with her father's death. This does bring up the question mark about Bellicon and Madra's past. They're both part of the Triumvirate, seem to have known each other for quite some time. Madra was mad at Bellicon for sending that beast, who was Fenrir, through the Quicksilver to assassinate her. And that is when she took Fenrir's sword and used it to still all of the Quicksilver pools. Again, I'm sorry I'm so hung up on these timelines, but it's another question. In the UK bonus chapter, Orlena saw Fenrir come through the Quicksilver with baby Carrion. But like we've established, there is over 600 years between this instance and the mission Fenrir supposedly disappeared on, which was 600 plus years before this incident. And the mission Fenrir supposedly disappeared on, the one that made Fisher's mother a widow and have to marry Bellicon. If Madra really was only 26 at the time, how does she have so much history with Bellicon and Malcolm? Why did Bellicon want to assassinate her in the first place? Has she been afraid of his Fae warriors coming through the Quicksilver to kill her all this time? My head hurts.
I think we're supposed to be confused, and this is one of those moments where I'm like, I don't need an answer. I'll wait until November 18th and I'll get my answers. Probably, hopefully.
In any case, now Bellicon and Madra are like, no big deal. Water under the bridge after so many centuries.
They clearly are not fantasy fangirls in this case.
So is this recent water under the bridge? Like the triumvirate was finally able to reconnect after a millennia last month when Ceres reawakened the Quicksilver. And within the last month is when Madra and Bellicon hashed out their issues. After all, Heron will say that the pieces of this game have been in play for millennia. That is thousands of years plural. I bet it goes right back to the blood curse. But again, where the hell does Madra fit into this? Laura Rose 1888 from our Discord shared a fantastic theory about Zelvarin and Madra. What if Zelvarin has a deep reserve or naturally produces silver, and that's why it was visited by Fae? And Madra has not wanted others to know how much access to silver she has, so that's why she dresses her guards in gold. It's not the same valuable metal as silver, but it is still wealth to flaunt. Ooh, or that she knew that the golden guards would be interacting with Malcolm, and she wanted to ensure it wouldn't hurt him, so she had them be gold versus silver. Laura from our Discord also adds, what if Carrion has been dealing in secret silver mines? I love that idea.
This would also explain why it's called the Silver City.
Exactly, and I have another note on that here in a moment, but first I want to add to Laura's theory here. What if because Zelvarin was so rich in silver, Malcolm wanted to make sure to get the Zelvarin crown on his side to prevent the deadly material from outsourcing to his enemy? So he came to Madra and proposed immortality and kind of brought her into their posse and became the triumvirate together. So then there was this immortal Madra with a bunch of silver, cruel and paranoid over possessing this valuable resource, so she locked everyone out and got rid of all the Fae in her realm, especially the alchemists. Also, think about it. Zelvarin, not only is it nicknamed the Silver City, as Tegan in our Discord pointed out, Zelvarin in Dutch directly translates to silver and of silver. Zelvarin literally translates to of silver.
Let's talk about another duo here who have quite a bit of history. Let's briefly discuss the motivation of Malcolm being so invested in Fisher all these years. For this conversation, I do want to give a quick trigger warning as we are about to discuss Malcolm's non-consensual behaviors towards Kingfisher. So if you are not comfortable with that, please skip ahead a few minutes. Always listen to your comfort level. Kingfisher is extremely powerful. And personally, I don't think Malcolm knows just how powerful. Like, for instance, I don't think he knows that Kingfisher is Zareth's champion. But having an asset like Fisher on his side with Nemerel would be enough for Malcolm to have this Fae, Fisher, as part of his army. And I'm assuming he would want Fisher at like Taladeus level, not a feeder. But based off Malcolm's language, there is also an attraction to Fisher that he will not relent, with saying to Ceres that he's, quote, our Kingfisher, or calling Fisher, quote, my love, causing him to flinch. We learn that Malcolm promised to wipe the entirety of Gilthry from Fisher's memory should Fisher feed on Malcolm just once. Note that this is Fisher feeding, not the other way around. Should Malcolm bite Fisher, he would turn. This is purely for Malcolm's own sexual enjoyment. But that offer was never accepted by Fisher because Fisher would rather spend another day in this goddamn maze versus that sick enjoyment for Malcolm. But why didn't Malcolm just feed off Fisher? Because every day while he was in the labyrinth, Fisher wore a gorget at his throat, which is made of pure silver embedded with nasty magic, according to Malcolm. Which means Malcolm couldn't touch it, couldn't rip it off him, couldn't work his way around it. Which, quick pause, is that why Fisher always had the gorget around his neck for most of the beginning of this book? It's almost like because of the threat and the PTSD of Malcolm threatening to feed off him for 120 years. It was just 110 years. It was just habit to have it around his throat for like safety.
I like to think that it's because he knows that vampires are around and he has that extra protection for himself.
Which brings us to Malcolm learning about Fisher's mate, Cyrus. I know I'm jumping ahead a little, but right before Cyrus beheads Malcolm, he shares about the moment King Fisher came to the labyrinth, he knew Fisher had mated a human. And Malcolm's fucking pissed about it. Malcolm feeds figuratively off power. Well, figuratively and literally. He's the most powerful being in the realm, and he fucking loves it. So for a human, yes, he's ignoring the fact that she's the most powerful alchemist seen in an age for this part, to come in and swoop up the man that Malcolm wanted, that's not going to fly.
Gather around, friends. It's story time. The story we readers have been wondering about since Fisher returned from his mysterious disappearance. The story we deep divers have been referencing since episode 1, but now let's share all the details. 110 years ago, Malcolm's horde of tens of thousands of vampires gathered at the gates of Gilthry. Gilthry was a city home to 2,000 fae and lesser fairies. So I do recommend looking up Gilthry on the map. It's not in Yvelia, but it is on the other side of the Darn, northeast of Amontreath and directly west of Ballard. Fisher and his warriors learned about this attack too late because Malcolm set up a distraction for the fae warriors, with a much smaller force battling them in the south, probably closer to Erin, to keep them occupied. Fisher found out that the majority of Malcolm's feeders marched on Gilthry too late, and he couldn't move enough warriors through his shadow gate. So he brought who he could, Renthis and some of the other wolves, to try and save as many people as they can in Gilthry. 7 warriors against 20,000 feeders. These warriors included Fisher, Renthis, Lorith, Danya, and I don't think we know who the other 3 are.
I would assume it's the others that are mentioned in the gate, part
That's
1
what
and 2.
I thought too.
I also want to just point out, there's that number again, 7. That very auspicious number, according to Taylena and Callie.
Unfortunately, though, the vampires were already inside the city by the time the wolves arrived. Because you see, the Gilthry Fae were out in the streets. They were celebrating the festival of the first song, which only made it that much easier for Malcolm's horde to sweep through the city, feeding on everyone and anything they came across, either draining their victims or subjecting them to an agonizing death. So Fisher left his wolves, remember wolves mean warriors, to go find Malcolm. It is time to kill this motherfucker once and for all. But, record scratch, it was not Malcolm he found first. It was Bellicon. Because, turns out, Bellicon and Malcolm haven't been enemies all this time after all, like we've been saying. They've been allies, working together since before the Blood Curse, so before Malcolm became a vampire. Because remember, he was the first Fae infected with the Blood Curse. And like we've mentioned, he's a whole lot older than any other Fae should be, because he is immortal, because he is part of the Triumvirate.
So away from his wolves, Fisher struck a deal with Bellicon and Malcolm in an attempt to bargain for the lives of the remaining citizens of Gilthry. Bellicon found a coin, the smallest bit of currency here in Gilthry, and Bellicon said that if the coin hit the ground and landed leaf side up, Malcolm would call off his horde and leave the city without hurting another living thing. If the coin, however, hit the ground and landed fish side up, he would take the city as his own and destroy it. And Fisher would have to leave those still alive to their deaths and meet him on the battlefield at a later date. Quick pause, because I was very curious about these two sides of the coin, leaf and fish. So I called Callie, and we're all going to keep our fingers crossed that she answers this question, to ask what the decision was behind using those two sides of a coin. And here is what she said. Again, you're the first to ask about this. Yes! I've spoken before about my love of Lord of the Rings and how I've peppered little nods of Tolkien throughout Quicksilver. The leaf was a tip of the cap to the pins given to the Fellowship by the elves before they set off on their journey. The fish was for Gollum because he does love to catch his fish. Catch a fish, squeeze. I love this.
Awesome.
There were also a few additional rules. Fisher was not allowed to touch the coin or influence the way it fell. While the coin toss was being decided, he was not allowed to harm Bellicon or Malcolm, not even able to touch a hair on either of their heads. And finally, until the outcome of the coin toss has been decided, Fisher isn't allowed to speak of the deal or the fact that Malcolm and Bellicon are brothers. And Fisher agreed, desperate to save the people of Gilthry, so he made the blood oath. Once Bellicon tossed the coin, Malcolm caught it. As the result of the coin never touched the ground, The bet never ended. At this point in the story, Saris notes that in Kingfisher's eyes, there's a bottomless sadness, and the Quicksilver is completely still. That's really good for us to know because Quicksilver watch, that means Kingfisher is entirely in his right mind. With the bet results in limbo, Malcolm's vampire children feasted on Gilthry, and it was to the point that Kingfisher torched the entire city. He barricaded it and trapped everyone inside. Kingfisher knew that Malcolm's horde had either bitten or killed everyone in the city, and that they were all in the process of transitioning or dying. Gilthry was home to nearly 200,000 Fae, and Fisher knew that if they were able to turn, Malcolm would have them in his army and he would have enough power to destroy the entire realm. Basically, Malcolm would have won the war if everyone bitten in Gilthry joined his side. So Kingfisher did what he had to do and he gave the order. Better for them to have a merciful death than come back as feeders and overrun the realm.
Well, Malcolm thought this was a dick move. No one outshines him. He didn't appreciate how Fisher ensured everyone died a nice death instead of become a feeder for his army. So Malcolm decided to torment Fisher some more. And even he admits it was a little cruel, without remorse, I should say, and he's rather proud of himself. Malcolm created, quote, the most diabolically lethal labyrinth he could think of here at the burned to ash Gilthry, with a coliseum around it filled with the perpetually burning bodies of all the creatures Fisher had attempted to save. Malcolm hid the coin he grabbed from the incomplete coin toss in the center of the maze, promising that Fisher could end all of these people's suffering when he finds the coin and makes it fall to the ground. And since it was too late to save the Fae from death, Fisher would instead be saving them from an eternity of burning kind of alive. And only once the coin hit the ground could Fisher speak of this entire deal. That's why he has literally not been able to say where he's been and Belcon's involvement until right now when he was released from that part of the oath. After the coin would hit the ground, that's also when Fisher would be free to seek out his vengeance against Malcolm on the battlefield. Once Kingfisher entered the labyrinth, he was stuck there for 110 years. We'll soon find out just how terrifying this maze is with the moving walls and creatures within it. Within the magic of this place, Fisher also was not able to sleep or eat. He was constantly trapped in this living nightmare without even sleep to give him relief or a good meal. Occasionally, Malcolm would send some of his other friends to play with him. Yuck. When I think of his friends, I think of other spider demons or the vampires or terrible beasts. And from time to time, Malcolm would even visit Fisher himself with illuminating conversations. Boo, we hate you so much, Malcolm. Like Nicole mentioned, we'll learn from Malcolm that he offered many times for Fisher to be released from this hellhole if only Malcolm could drink from him. But Fisher always refused, preferring this horror than giving in to Malcolm's desires. Then one day, Kingfisher finally made it to the center of the labyrinth. And Malcolm was shocked it only took him 102 years to do it because Malcolm thought it would take him a lot longer. But here at the center of the labyrinth, Fisher spent the next 8 years trying to find the coin in a pile of millions that Saris will inform us are probably just illusions. Quick side note, the indie version of Quicksilver says that it is 55 years in the maze, 8 years in the center. But the audiobook, updated ebook, and the new trad print says 102 years in the maze, since that is what equals 110, just in case anybody was confused about the inconsistent math there.
The day that Taladeus was checking in on Kingfisher, the ground shook so violently that the stone cracked beneath his feet where the coins were and a hole appeared, exposing quite the secret. There is a Quicksilver pool directly below the labyrinth and it had awakened. And after taking only one look at the Quicksilver, Kingfisher dropped down into the pool without a second thought, disappearing and not coming back. This again surprised Malcolm. He had given Fisher multiple opportunities to leave the labyrinth, but Kingfisher never accepted. We know from the Maze bonus chapter, both at the end of any updated ebook and at the end of the new hardbook edition, that this is literally that scene, and it's fabulous if you have not read it.
While Malcolm is trying to goat Fisher, Fisher barely angles his shoulders and he shifts his weight. We all know Fisher does not do anything for no reason. He must be planning something while he's talking to both Saris in his mind and Malcolm out loud. Fisher tells Malcolm that he felt his father's sword call to him and that he knew he would need it for this. Fisher moves so fast next to Saris and draws solace from its scabbard at her hip. Then the blade becomes, quote, a flare of brilliant light in the ash-choked air. This is either just a silver shining through or Solace is channeling magic in this moment. Whipping around, Kingfisher drops to one knee and, with both hands on the hilt, drives the sword straight up into Belacon's stomach. Pulling the blade free, Kingfisher spins again, but this time he thrusts the blade into Belacon's throat. And it takes Kingfisher putting all of his weight into this attack for it to push through Belacon's neck. Vengeance for Fisher's parents! Aw, he's been waiting more than 1,700 years for this moment to kill his stepfather. It's too bad it will not work because Belacon will be able to be healed within a few minutes. You know, after all, you have to kill all three of the triumvirate in order to truly kill any of them. However, this is when all hell breaks loose.
Which means it's time to get the hell out of here. But to where? It will take them far too long to go to the top of the cliffs, then climb down, and then where do they go? They open a shadow gate above the lake, and then they have to swim through the lake and then somehow get up to the shadow gate. But also, remember, Kingfisher in this maze cannot open a gate. It is only after Malcolm is, air quotes, dead, that he is able to open a shadow gate. There's another option, though. Instead of swimming into a lake and somehow hovering above it, they can go into the mysterious maze where Fisher spent 110 years of his life. Is it a good option? Absolutely not. Is it their best option? Yes, it is. Because he knows most, if not all, of the horrors that await them. It would also give them the opportunity to get the coin that can end this once and for all. And there's a Quicksilver pool in the center. Not ideal for everyone going through, but it's a damn good last resort. And it's also very handy dandy that they have an alchemist with them who can listen to the Quicksilver, bringing them towards the center of the maze and also to the coin. Malcolm launches himself at Fisher, but he's blocked by Lorith as he holds a Vizzieth against Malcolm's neck. Go, Lorith! And even though the sword barely touches Malcolm's skin, it's enough to make the Vampire King cry out and for black smoke to come from the wound. Ooh, God swords may not be able to work here, but because it's silver, that means it is still harmful to vampires. And with that tiny bit of distraction, everyone on both sides jump into action. And even though he's fighting the effects of the Quicksilver, Heron moves with a lethal determination, but at a slower pace than before. Saris launches herself at Heron, surprising him, and thrusts a dagger into his gut. While all that's going on, Carrion is wielding Simon with deadly precision, slicing through the feeders with absolutely no issue. We need to talk about this, because Saris mentions how it seems like he's been training with the weapon for years. So did Carrion act bad when he was training with Ren back in Erin? Because I think so. I think he's suddenly able to hold off multiple feeders at once. Now, to be fair, Ren is definitely better than multiple feeders, but still, I think that he was playing bad.
I think that he was training as well as he could based on the limited training with Fae warriors that he had ever had, but he has been consistently training with the warriors throughout, the last month or so.
Oh, see, I think that this is a wink, wink, nod, nod to him training back in Zilvarin for 1,000 years.
Yes, I think that you're actually probably right, yes.
Yes! And it is at this moment that Kingfisher decides enough is enough to the labyrinth, everybody. But no one is really making moves towards the labyrinth yet because everyone's very much still locked in a battle, except for Madra, who's just chilling with a little umbrella drink watching from the sidelines, unsurprisingly. Saris takes a blow to the face, but luckily thanks to the Widow's Bane, she's able to counter the attack instead of feeling the pain. Taking her last blade, Saris slashes Heron's shoulder, and this is when Heron reveals that Madra gifted him with eternity. He says, quote, "Death has forgotten me, bitch. My name is nowhere on his register." So Madra did gift him with eternal life. I am making my declaration. I have my flag. I am planting it on the hill that Madra is an alchemist and she has learned how to prolong life. This could also be why she was killing all of them and obsessed with discovering more, because again, she wants to be the one and only with magic. I really get that vibe from her. We know that there's a type of alchemist back from the chapter Crumbs that discovered the path to immortality. I'm 1000% convinced that at least Madra is this one type, at least this one type.
Well, I have been leaning more in this direction. I think I am ready to make a bet with you. I think that she is immortal because it is tied to the triumvirate, not because of the alchemy.
Okay, so let's make the bet clear. How about the bet is Madra is an alchemist?
Yes.
Okay, and you know what?
Lexi says no. Nicole says yes.
Yeah. Pausing long enough to make it look intentional, Cyrus waits for the captain to make his move. Then she swipes his legs out from under him, dropping on top of him, wraps her legs around his throat. While Heron is attempting to stab Cyrus off of him, she bats his hand away, reaches down, and snaps his neck. We can both agree that Heron's not dead, right? Like, we're absolutely going to see this guy will not die.
For poor Heron's sake, I hope he's dead. But yeah, he's definitely not dead. However, I don't think he goes through the Quicksilver with Madra when she escapes. So maybe he's just lying in Gilthry? I'm rooting for a redemption arc that ends in such a nice, peaceful, beautiful death for this poor Heron, who really needed to die a very long time ago.
After fighting their way through all of that, Cyrus, Lorith, Carrion, and Fisher finally book it to the maze. The walls are razor sharp, made of obsidian, and all but the first 10 moves change. What's after the first 10 moves? I'm so glad you asked. Once you make it through that first section, the path opens up to an opening with the spider of all spiders inside. 3 times the height of a full-grown man. By the way, a full-grown man, I'm assuming is like, let's say like 6 feet. I don't know. Sure.
Whoa, we're talking about Fae men here. So
6'5"?
7-ish?
7 feet? So 3 times that size is 21 feet. So maybe he's about 20 feet. That's so scary. He has more legs than anyone can count. The back of his abdomen is a fleshy bulb spotted with red and black and covered in coarse long hairs. Ugh. But that's not all. The front part is Fae, the male torso with a descended, bloated stomach, thin, emaciated arms, patches of greasy hair stuck to its mostly bald head, and no ears, eyes, or nose. The face is nothing but a massive circular mouth lined with rows and rows of sharp, jagged teeth. Do you see why I had nightmares about this thing this week?
Yes. This spider demon, called Morthil, cannot see or hear, but it does track movement and can sense the size of objects, which means Fisher has a plan of getting around Morthil, because he was stuck in this maze for 102 years and has faced Morthil a time or two. Out of the 3 exits to this enclosure, our crew needs to take the one directly behind the spider demon, because of course, to head toward the Quicksilver pool at the center of this labyrinth. But about getting past the giant spider demon that tracks movement, Fisher, Lorth, and Ceres are all at the wall already, so they need to press back against it and slowly move around the enclosure. This makes it seem like they blend in with the wall. Therefore, Morthil can't track their movement because it thinks that they're part of the wall. Meanwhile, poor Carrion already moved too far away from the wall and he's just out in the open. So drop to the ground and blend in with the floor you go. Well, they almost make it until the maze wall they're pressed up against starts moving. Almost as if Malcolm is like not so fast and is controlling this, because he is. This makes Morth notice them because again of the movement, and boom, starts chasing them. Go, go, go through the exit and out the encasement.
Now that they're past the Morthil, the crew is booking it through the changing walled maze. But there's 2 problems. 1, Morthil has now climbed on top of the walls and is hot on their heels, yelling, "I feed," which is terrifying. Which is completely new behavior, according to Kingfisher, because all these years that he was trapped in the labyrinth, Morthil never left its enclosure. With its legs on top of each of the path's walls, the Morthil thrusts its stinger down like... and attempting I
need you all to watch this on YouTube right now.
Attempting to stab any of them with his stinger. During this scene... Cyrus reaches up and starts stabbing at its legs, causing it to fall down, almost crushing Lorith. While it's down, Lorith takes his sword and drives it into the beast's mouth until it pops out the other side of its head. But unfortunately, it's not actually dead. In an unknown amount of time, it will respawn smaller and faster, which we need to talk about, because if it respawns smaller and it's 21 feet, how big was it when Fisher started the maze? Good God. With the beast taken care of for now, that leads us to the second problem. The walls are moving, meaning the path keeps changing for our crew to get to the Quicksilver. Every time Saris makes the correct choice, Malcolm then changes the path again and again and again, which is infuriating, but it also means that they are at least on the right path. As they're running the last few turns to the center of the maze, Kingfisher notes how he knows this is towards the center only because the collapsed stands of the amphitheater. So this is where people assumably were sitting, but now that section of the crowd is gone. What happened here? Did Fisher do something in attempts to put some of them out of their misery? Did Malcolm toy with Kingfisher? Was it there to begin with?
I'm leaning toward there to begin with.
Or like there from the attack on Gilthry?
Something like that. I don't see how Kingfisher would have been able to do something.
True, not with
because
magic.
He doesn't have his magic. And if they were like toppled over or something like that, then I would take that as a better thing than burning alive. So
yeah, true.
I don't think that Malcolm would be that nice.
Nope.
I don't know.
I don't know either. When they finally make it to the center, the obsidian abruptly drops off and they are greeted with a mountain of coins. This is the spot that Fisher spent 8 straight years trying to find that one specific coin that Bellicon flipped during their bet. Now, the coins in this room are just something under illusions, and each one is teeny tiny, about the size of a thumbnail, so like a dime or even smaller. And Saris guesses that there's millions, plural, in here. Remember, there are people chanting all around them, screaming, Anorath more, Anorath more. There's also the Quicksilver in Kingfisher's head. Can we just imagine how difficult it would be to count with all of that going on? In the maze bonus chapter, we get a sneak peek of what counting looked like, and him getting distracted at 55,985, and he has to start over again. Oh my God. But as we will discover, these coins are all fake. The coin that was flipped was silver and had traces of Quicksilver in it, as the people of Gilthry thought the Quicksilver gave them good luck and that it would bring them fortune and connect them to the gods. And the silver burns vampires, so Malcolm wouldn't be able to just walk all over them willy-nilly.
So I'm curious about the effects of Quicksilver on vampires, because silver is what is lethal to vampires, but Quicksilver is something that is within silver. And because Quicksilver is so connected to the gods, if that same lethalness extends to Quicksilver on its own as well, does that mean that it's like the gods reject the vampires in general? Like they are unholy, they are not of this world sort of thing.
I could definitely see that. Absolutely. As Saris will discover shortly, the Quicksilver coin is not in this room. So no matter how many times Fisher flipped each and every single coin, the bet never would have ended. Fuck you, Malcolm and Bellicon.
On top of one of the piles of coins, Malcolm stands with Madra and a fully healed Bellicon at his side. They're standing between our crew and the Quicksilver pool, so they are blocking the exit. And the Triumvirate have decided that this is the perfect moment for an evil villain monologue. The Triumvirate can only be killed if you kill all 3 of them, as they share one source, as we were saying earlier. And now with the alchemist, Saris, to forge all the relics they need, the 3 of them will bring the old gods to their knees and claim every realm they desire. Do you think that the Triumvirate will be the big threat in the next few books, whether Malcolm is alive or not? I initially felt like it's too early in a 5-book series for one of the 3 big bads to die in book 1 and then the second to die in book 2, as we're thinking might happen with Madra. So maybe the Triumvirate is the lower level villain of the series, and their attempt to do this will trigger the final boss.
I think that the final boss is going to be whatever source is deadening the tree, and I think that the Triumvirate is connected to that source, but I definitely think they are going to be the lower level boss to kill. I think all 3 of them are going to be dead by the end of the next book.
Oh, okay. So here's what I think. I think that this book was Malcolm. I think that next book will be Madra. And then I think that the final book will be Bellicon.
Oh.
And I know that technically all 3 of them cannot die until all 3 of them are dead. So I do think that it is going to be extra difficult to kill Bellicon because there is something with the other 2 and like their power or something like that is still channeling from that same source.
Okay, I could see that. I could see that.
But don't worry, friends. Carrion is stepping forward to taunt this powerful triumvirate, to which both Kingfisher and Ceres agree that he is about to get himself killed. And it's just like, oh my god, what the fuck are you doing here, dude? And yep, Carrion is purposefully pissing off all three of the evil masterminds and literally challenging Malcolm to bite him. He wants Malcolm to get riled up, to attack him, to bite him, to, quote, see where it gets you. And it works. With a smirk on his face, Carrion watches as Malcolm marches across the coins toward him. This vampire king is so sure of himself, so far above a human, that he's like, oh, fuck this, let's shut this human up. He doesn't know who he's messing with. Carrion doesn't even make a half-assed attempt to protect himself. He is here for this bite. After Malcolm's teeth sink into Carrion's neck, he drinks, losing himself in his bloodlust, drinking down Carrion's blood in gulps. Nicole, that is such a bad time to be drinking your water right now. But then, when Malcolm finally releases Carrion's neck, he's surprised. And not in a good way. What the fuck is going on? He rocks back on his heels and shoves Carrion away as he starts to shake and violently convulse while vomiting up blood that splatters all over the coins at Malcolm's feet. What the hell is in Carrion's blood? And now is when we get the most satisfying reveal from Carrion, quote, you really should have let me finish introducing myself earlier. It's rude to interrupt people. My name is Carrion Swift, but there was a time when I was known as Carrion Dianthus, firstborn son to Rurik and Amelia Dianthus. Yes!
AKA the Fae King and Queen of Avelia before Bellicon killed them all those years ago.
Although I will say, I don't think Carrion was actually going to say who he was earlier when he's like, you interrupted me. He was waiting to rile Malcolm up to trick him into drinking his blood, and then he'd be like, surprise, motherfuckers! Okay, so what does all of this mean? Carrion is the heir to the Dianthus bloodline, and theoretically the rightful king to Euvalia instead of Bellicon. But why would his blood weaken and fuck Malcolm up this much? Because Carrion's father's blood was used to create the blood curse. And since Malcolm was the first infected with it to become a vampire, that means Dianthus blood created Malcolm. You see, a vampire cannot drink from the living members of a bloodline that created them, nor can they enthrall them. So Malcolm is supposed to die instantly here because he just drank the blood of his creator, essentially. But because he has lived for so long and is so powerful, this only makes Malcolm extremely weak now. His perfect porcelain skin is pulsing with black veins. And this has Bellicon and Madra freaked the fuck out. No one expected the heir to the Dianthus line to live, let alone show up here and trick Malcolm into drinking his blood that is the chink in his immortal armor.
With Malcolm not doing so hot and the Quicksilver coin not being in the center of the labyrinth like the liar pants on fire said it would be, this is Ceres's opportunity. Go find the coin somewhere in this labyrinth and freaking end this nightmare. With Malcolm no longer well enough to move the walls, running to the Quicksilver coin should have been quite easy. But there's an eeriness in this high-speed chase. For everyone in the stands who had been chanting Enerath more, they have now fallen quiet. And then the Quicksilver in the coin keeps calling out, Ceres, Ceres. Quite odd that it is calling her by her name. It normally calls her Alchemist or just she. We don't really get an answer as to why this is happening, but my guess it's because she's getting closer or it knows how desperate she is. So it knows that this is now its chance to ask her for what it really wants. While Ceres is not wanting to broker any deals with this Quicksilver fairly, the Quicksilver in this coin is insistent. Remember, she needs that tug on the Quicksilver coin to tell her where it is so that she can find it in the labyrinth. And without agreeing to this deal, it will not show her. It will not start the tug. So what does it want? A favor. A small favor. Quote, for the restoration of balance and for love. Yes, it will call that small favor in next episode with Ceres being pulled into the gods world with talking to Zareth and all that. We're not even touching that this episode. There's a reason that is its own episode. And they do talk about the restoration of balance with the tree and all of that, what role she has with his champion Fisher. So I feel like the restoring of balance is restoring of balance to the universe.
Yes, I think that's what I'm going to go with here too. And I gotta point out, once again, the Quicksilver is some kind of connection to the gods. It's like the bridge to this world. But the Quicksilver is sentient on its own, yet part of the gods and their magic, able to call in and bargain with this favor on behalf of the gods, essentially.
Yes. So I think it's wanting of the restoration of balance is the gods also wanting the restoration of balance. But then there's this interesting part where it says, we're going to call in this favor also for love, which I think is a very interesting thing to bring into this conversation when we're talking about the fate of the world.
It's right after she says, my mate.
It is.
And so I wonder if it's something to do with the god-bound mating bonds and stuff like that.
I definitely think so.
Yeah. I like to think that the Quicksilver also believes in their love story and wants to help them.
And considering what she's telling the Quicksilver as she agrees to this bargain, it is quite interesting indeed.
And here it is, friends. Ceres admits out loud that she can't bear for him to die, to which the Quicksilver goes, the Kingfisher, your mate. And that is when Ceres says, yes, my mate. Chills, chills, chills. This is Ceres accepting the mating bond. She didn't just say my mate out loud. She meant it. She felt it. She claimed him as her mate in her heart when she agreed with the Quicksilver. And of course she's claiming him as her mate. Ceres may have been afraid of giving her heart and admitting this love and commitment for Fisher, but she has felt it and this pull toward him for a long time. Like Fisher described with how he felt when he claimed her as his mate, it feels natural for her to embrace him as her mate. Soon enough, her tattoos return again. Although, didn't they come back the night before with Fisher? I guess they disappeared again. Anyway, the god binding flares metallic blue around her wrists, becoming even more real. This will also cause Ceres to be able to sense Fisher more strongly. Yes, they could before, but with the mutually agreed bond, the strength of this bond cranks up to level 100.
It's like now they're able to feel each other's injuries, the emotions. Like it's no longer only when I talk to you down the bond. It's now I can feel you. Creeping forward towards the Morthil's corpse, Ceres looks around for the coin that the Quicksilver is guiding her to. After striking that bargain, she can tell that the coin is here, and here, but all she sees is the spider demon's steaming corpse. Its abdomen is ripped wide open. One of its legs is laying on the ground a few feet away, but leaning over and peering into its mouth-like face, she notices a flash of silver. Hooray! She found it! But it's in the back of the creature's throat and it's past its nasty teeth-infested mouth. Giving herself a nice little pep talk, Ceres reaches forward inside, and puts her hand down the demon's mouth past its razor-sharp teeth. Remember that there are rows upon rows upon rows of serrated teeth that get smaller and smaller down its throat they go. Note from our content researcher, Brooke, you cannot pay me enough to stick my hand back there. That's a fuck this shit, I'm out moment.
All right, good to know where your boundaries are with employment, Brooke.
I think the worst part of this is that the corpse is still warm and slimy. Like, in my mind, this thing is just gonna chop off my hand while I'm going in and grabbing this coin, especially because then it fucking twitches. Oh my God, that fear, I would die. I would like, hands still halfway down, I would die. I think the fear is so warranted. But once the coin is in her hand, she's able to quickly yank her arm out of its mouth.
I was on the seat of my pants when I was reading this for the first time. I thought for sure shit was about to go down with the spider demon, not what actually happens next. But yes, anyway. Okay, friends, quick check-in. Are you still with us? Good? Good. Okay. Ceres successfully pulls the correct coin out of the back of Morthiel's mouth. In other words, a place Kingfisher would never think to look. But the good vibes don't last long, because before she can flip the coin now that she has it, Malcolm grabs her wrist. He's in terrible shape after drinking Diantha's blood, smelling like rotten meat, and his skin is melting off him, but he's still kicking and is strong enough to take the all-important coin from Ceres.
Buckle up, buttercups, because everything Malcolm says to Ceres about her tattoos has alarm, alarm, alarm written all over it. As he's pointing out her runes on her fingers, he names them, quote, Earth, Air, Fire, Water, Salt, Brimstone, Quicksilver. The full gamut, more powerful than any alchemist I've ever encountered. You are capable of restoring me to my power and a lot more besides. I just have a row of exclamation points in the outline right now, because what does this mean?
It means we have at least 90% more to learn about Ceres' powers, according to Callie.
Okay, Okay, so I'm assuming she's going to be able to control / talk to each of these elements: earth, air, fire, water, salt, brimstone, and of course Quicksilver, like we have seen. But it's interesting that this does not include some of the ones that Kingfisher mentioned when they were in Ballard, because in addition to all of these, Kingfisher also mentioned light, dark, silver, and steel. So did Malcolm not see them or not bother calling them out, or what? But then he also says, quote, "You are capable of restoring me to my power and a lot more besides." But then none of the elements he mentioned are restoring him to power.
I don't think I'm taking them quite as literally as you are. I think they create more power altogether, but I also don't think these are all the runes that she has. Sarah's only says that Malcolm is pointing to the runes on her index and middle fingers, but she has runes on all of her fingers. So this is only part of what is represented on her hands. That's my understanding.
I agree. And I'm actually going to take this a step further, because I think that going back to the types of alchemists, there is 1, the type who discovered the path to immortality; 2, the type that can transmute various metals and ores; and 3, those who can cure disease and illness. So I think that he's actually referring to the fact that she is the most powerful alchemist, maybe even all 3 types of alchemists, and she also has the ability to talk to these different elements that he's mentioning. Because I'm still just gonna white knuckle latch onto this theory that she is all 3 types, but the runes are the things that she can physically talk to. They're not necessarily related to being only the second type of alchemist. It's almost like the runes of earth, air, fire, water, salt, brimstone, and Quicksilver. Those are like extra powers on top of the base powers of alchemy.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
No, that all sounds right to me.
Moving on then. In this exchange, Malcolm also brings up that there was a time when he worked very closely with an alchemist. Quote, "It was a very talented alchemist who discovered the key to my blood gift. She was remarkable in many ways, deeply disappointing in others. Perhaps I should keep you alive once all this is done. I seem to be in need of another miracle thanks to that bastard Dianthus wretch." Okay, hold on again. Alarm, alarm, alarm. Insert row of exclamation points, because there's no way this is just a throwaway line.
Oh, goodness, no. First of all, what does Malcolm mean by blood gift? Is it what everyone else refers to as the blood curse, and it was an alchemist who originated the blood curse, not the witches like rumor is? Is it the cure to the blood curse?
So I think it's the blood curse, but he calls it blood gift rather than blood curse because he views it as that. I think that this is an alchemist / witch, so she was both.
So what I'm actually kind of leaning more toward is we understand that Malcolm tapped into the dark magic of the blood curse. Maybe this blood gift is harnessing the power of being a fae vampire and how he is able to be this powerful and this strong. I also wonder, will Ceres be able to figure out what this key to the blood gift is as another powerful alchemist? Is it going to be even relevant? I'm wondering if whatever the alchemist discovered, she did not like and didn't want to keep doing it, which is a big reason that Malcolm is saying she was disappointing. I'm going to guess that she also tried to kill Malcolm. Seems reasonable. And the only reason I lean toward the blood gift being something in Malcolm's favor versus, like the cure, is because Malcolm needs Ceres to heal him as a vampire. So I think that this blood gift is part of healing him as this vampire here.
Yes, I agree. I think it's keeping him cursed as he was, because if he spent almost, thousands and thousands of years cursed, but in his mind it was this gift, he's now wanting another alchemist to bestow that gift upon him again.
That's what I'm saying, is that I take it another level up, where it's like he discovered the key to really harnessing the power of this blood curse. And that is one of the big reasons that he did not want to go back to what everybody else is wanting to go back to, because he's like, no, I figured this shit out.
Okay, so then pivoting slightly, who could this alchemist be? Because this is not a throwaway line. We are going to see this again. Could this alchemist be one of Ceres's ancestors from many, many, many years ago?
Yes. Okay.
If she was someone who discovered the meaning of this blood gift, this is where I'm saying, could she also have witch magic also? So she's like a Balkadir witch alchemist.
You're saying that Ceres' ancestor is a witch, and Ceres might have some witch in her too. I wonder who has already noted that when he entered her.
A witch! Never forget! Considering figuring out blood magic has been something we primarily associate with the Balconier clan, I absolutely think that this person might be tied in that way. But I have an idea, Lexi. Are you ready?
Sure.
What if she is the witch who cursed them all long ago? It was said that it was a witch clan from the Balconier clan that put the blood curse on everyone. So what if this is the same person who was also an alchemist that worked for Malcolm?
Very possibly. The witches also said, no, that rumor is not true.
If we've learned anything from fantasy, it is that history is not always correct.
Exactly, because most people believe that they were the cause of it, and she's coming here and being like, no, we weren't.
Okay, so fine. I have another theory that I can at least stack on the last one, or it can be totally separate. What if this alchemist also knows how to bestow immortality? Remember, this is alchemy type number 1. So she was also immortal. So what if we're going to see her next book?
I think that Malcolm killed her, but I do believe that the original source of the blood curse was trying to do something else. So what if Ruick, because again, it was his blood that created it, somehow he was wanting to tap into that immortality or healing a disease or illness or something like that, and something went very, very wrong, and that is what happened with the blood curse. And what if they were trying to like heal Malcolm or something, and it all went wrong, and he became the blood curse instead?
Okay, I was going in a different direction. I personally think she's either going to be an ancestor of Ceres's, or she is still alive because she has this key to immortality, and that's why it was listed off in one of the 3 different alchemy types. I don't think she would be in Santa's Wrath, considering the way Malcolm talks about her is all in the past tense. So he either killed her or believes her to be dead, which, Lexi,
Yes.
You know who I'm going to bring back?
Oh my God. No.
What if she was the woman who gasped in chapter 1? What if she somehow made it to Zolvarin using her alchemy magic, and she was the woman who gasped at Ceres climbing the wall? And she's like, another alchemist, a witch!
Can we please add to our questions for Callie for our interview coming up? If that had any note.
You know she's going to say it was in the book, so there's a reason for it.
I don't know. That's a pretty deep cut.
I'll let you ask that question, and I'll just sit there smugly.
Fine. I'm going to say that I think that the alchemist is unfortunately dead. Malcolm probably had something to do with it, and Ceres is definitely related to her.
All right, I will make a bet with you. Is this alchemist dead or not? Okay, Malcolm's alchemist is dead. Lexi says yes. Nicole says no. God, I hope she was the one who gasped. As of right now, that woman is at least 10 different people.
Like every female in this entire series who could possibly, it's like, it's her.
Hey, I gotta be right at some point.
Grabbing the blade at her thigh, Ceres stabs it into Malcolm's throat in an attempt to free herself from his grasp. But Malcolm is immortal, so all this does is just piss him off even more. Letting out a snarl, rawr, Malcolm slams his fist into Ceres' stomach and drives it upward. And friends, when I say into, I mean literally into her stomach. There is blood on his fist when he takes it away.
Yeah, I get it, Lexi. I gotta admit how full circle this is, considering how Heron stabbed Ceres in the stomach earlier this book.
Poor girl just can't catch a break.
I know, her poor
tummy
stomach.
Issues, huh?
Hot girls have tummy issues.
Since the widow's bane has worn off, this is shattering pain. She can absolutely feel this is very bad. Ceres vows that the last thing she'll do is kill Malcolm. I love how vengeful our girl is when she's dying. But Malcolm's neck is knitting together right in front of her eyes. Aha! Attempting to kill Malcolm was not the point of stabbing him, though. It was to do what Ceres the thief does best and distract him, to grab the pouch with the coin in it off his belt. Yes! Another full circle moment for our girl and her original skills back before this whole mess. Malcolm may grab this pouch back from a very weak Ceres, thinking he won, until he opens that pouch and finds nothing. The coin is gone. Ceres managed to get the coin out of the pouch undetected and out of Malcolm's grasp. Huzzah!
Opening her hand, Saris now shows Malcolm the coin, the bet coin, the coin that holds Fisher's fate. And she flips it.
The one coin to rule them all.
Not high, though. No. Saris doesn't want to give him another opportunity to grab it like he did last time. At this point, it doesn't matter if it lands on fishes or leaves, only that it lands, and this hell ends that Malcolm has created. The moment the coin hits the obsidian floor, it shakes the ground. The rap is getting too good. And then there's a moment of stillness. Everything is holding its breath. The beat has dropped away. And then suddenly a strong wind slams into the labyrinth. If this is not some kind of act from either the Four Winds or Saris using air magic, I am fucking out. I am out of this deep dive. You have to find another co-host. That is how certain I am of this magic. As the wind carries cries of Anarath more, and it passes the souls into the afterlife, hundreds of thousands of both higher and lesser fae finally are able to pass on, and their pain comes to an end.
After 110 years, may they finally rest in peace.
And with only a, quote, "Only the gods are eternal," she wields Solace and cuts off Malcolm's head. The only way to kill a vampire.
Huzzah! Malcolm's head is cut off. But we're all like, none of the triumvirate can die unless they're all dead. So Callie has his head burst into blue flames before it even hits the ground. And just in case we're still like, yeah, Malcolm's not actually dead though, his body goes up in blue flames too. All this magic that he has cast is starting to go away. The vampires he's enthralled, they're free. And yet even this episode, we are still seriously speculating whether Malcolm is dead, as I know many in this fandom also wonder. Because we know this about the triumvirate, that none of them can die unless they're all dead. What I'm guessing is that while he no longer has a body, Malcolm is somehow, some way still in limbo until his two siblings also die. But then he did say himself that he has no soul. I don't know. I just really want him to stay dead and this have an interesting impact on Madra and Belicon. I also think that because it's a god sword, Solace that slices off his head, this is an act that channels magic back into the sword. And I think one more proof that Malcolm is actually dead.
Well, so right after Malcolm explodes into blue flames, a blast of light tears out of Solace into the gray clouds. Then light comes back down and destroys the obsidian, setting fire to the entire amphitheater.
So with Malcolm gone, Thurso is the terrible death hold that he had on this place, and the god swords can all channel again. Solace, however, is only channeling temporarily until the light flickers out again. I think that it momentarily reactivated by such a big and powerful act of killing Malcolm, and now it's back to dormant, like I've been saying.
I'm not as... It's all active. It's just taking a little nippy nap. I do want to point out, though, that blue is coming back. So blue, like Saris's eyes. Blue, like Madra's eyes and the dress that she's wearing when we first meet her. Blue, like Carrion's eyes. Blue, like Zareth's eyes, god of chaos and change. Blue like Balin Mithin's eyes, two goddesses. Blue like Ishabal's eyes. All of the god swords except Fisher's exhibit blue power. All the blue blood that Malway has when she was gripping Solace in the throne room. And the ring around the sun in the opening chapters was blue. Something is screaming at me that blue equals tied to the gods somehow?
So I googled the religious meaning of the color blue, and yep, blue is considered God's color. In many religions, blue symbolizes the divine and the heavens, representing God's presence and spirituality.
So, okay, so Carrion, I'm assuming that means something tied with, the royalty, the Dianthus. Madra, because she's the queen of the Silver City.
Well, hold on, because she's very anti-gods. So I think that it's a little bit...
Well, she views herself as a god.
True.
Ishabal, I'm curious how that connection would be. I wonder if the Balkdir witches are considered gods in and of themselves, which would also explain Malway's blue blood. But Saris, maybe because she's blessed by the gods, blessed one?
I don't know if I'm putting so much into people's eyes. Like, everybody who has blue eyes, I don't know if that's like a connection to the gods, because so many of the Fae do have blue eyes.
Exactly.
Okay.
dial tone. After a moment, Kingfisher comes to his mate's aid, using their mind-to-mind connection to find her. Saris is wondering if Fisher can feel how weak she is, considering how she felt his injuries earlier. And I would bet my money, 100%, yes, he can feel it. Remember, her wound was just punched open. Like, she's not doing okay. In addition to Kingfisher being here, there is another face. Taladeus. Remember, for Saris, she only knows Tal to be this extremely powerful vampire on Malcolm's side, considering he was standing on the bank holding Everlane hostage. It's super fair that she's like, no, go away.
That's how I felt when I first read it. I was like, oh shit, oh no.
Yes, but we know that Tal has been playing both sides. We will get way more into Taladeus and his motivations and his, goals next episode, especially because I am very convinced he is going to be a major player next book. But for right now, Fisher is clearly working with a very concerned Tal to find a cure for his mate, who is literally seconds from dying.
Kingfisher offers to bind his soul to Saris, just like he did with Lorth as he was dying all those years ago. It'll keep her here in this world and save her. However, Fisher has already soul-bound himself. He does not have enough soul left to give to Saris and live himself. Without any hesitancy, because we know Fisher through and through, he offers anyway. He's willing to give his life for his mate, who has barely lived. She's only 24 years old, and he's over 1,700. But this time, it's Saris who refuses to let him do this. She would never want him to give his life for hers, and she would never forgive him for taking that choice away from her. Go, girl, keep those boundaries set, even when you're literally dying. And at the same time, poor Fisher feels so defeated that he is not able to save her.
With Kingfisher unable to use Ol Reliable on his mate, there is only one option, and they're running out of time. Like, literally seconds. Make this decision now, which includes our girl, Saris, living on, but with some major changes that we will discuss next episode.
Let's tap into our inner oracle and turn our full attention to additional foreshadowing moments for the rest of this book, all 2 chapters of them, and speculations for book 2, Brimstone. It's almost here!
Do you think it's notable that there's a reason that when Carrion offers up the book of Adina's prophecies with Saris written all over it, that Saris does not read it? Because I think there's a reason.
Yes, I agree. I understand why in the moment Saris is not interested in reading the journal, with Fisher having just left, but I definitely want to see what is in Adina's journal and what discoveries and details Saris may find out in there. If we've learned one thing in fantasy, we've learned many things, but if we've learned one thing, it is that when someone's like, hey, look at this document, it looks really, really interesting. And somebody's like, no, I have no time for that. There is something very important that we do not know in that document. We learn a little bit more about Quicksilver pools. Knowing that they are the portals between realms, we always have to keep a close eye on which regions have Quicksilver pools. Rimphis says that Gilthry used to have a Quicksilver pool, but Bellicon took it when he came into power and merged it with his gigantic pool at the Winter Palace. So his pool at the Winter Palace is large enough to transport an army. First of all, I definitely think that Quicksilver will transport an army at some point. This is foreshadowing. And second, we find out this episode that Gilthry does indeed still have a Quicksilver pool, and a pretty big one. So did Bellicon take part of the pool over 1,000 years ago? Or did he never? Or did he say that he did? Or did he give it back when it was overtaken by Bellicon? Very confused. Anyway, last thing on the Quicksilver pools, there is a pool here at College too. Good to know, as our characters will realm jump later in the series.
Okay. Did Lorth and Ishabel fool around? Because he mentions how they met before and she knows his damn name. And when she gives him a feline smirk and says, quote, oh, really? I must have forgotten. When did they meet? I'm in my headcanon they have slept together.
I don't think they've already fooled around, but yes, I do want to know what their previous interaction was. But no, I don't think that they've already fooled around.
They've totally fucked. Bet. Okay.
I bet you that they have not slept together yet.
Okay. I bet you that they have. And that it was
right.
a night, many a night ago. Lexi says no. Nicole says yes. Right when Heron comes back into the story, he mentions to Lorith that this location is only the first circle of hell. But he is happy to introduce Lorith to all 5. So curious to learn more about these 5 hell circles.
Me too. I was wondering about this. I assume that Heron was referencing this first circle of hell because this is a graveyard and death is in the air, right? But I also bet that Heron himself has personally been introduced to all 5 hells. If they're real? Or do you think that it's real or it's just an expression?
I think they're going to be real just with the gods being like actual beings. I don't think there's a world in which these 5 hells are not actual places. But yeah, that's a good point, because if he was referring to this one being the first circle of hell, I think you're right, where like the first circle of hell is just death and graveyard.
Yeah. But I don't think that this was literally the first circle of hell.
I think that this was a figurative. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
We need to talk about Kingfisher's mother and Bellicon. We learned that Bellicon killed Adina because when she was supposed to be the greatest oracle of all time, he sliced her throat because he was sick of her fucking lies. So what is it that Adina told Bellicon that made him kill her? Like, because it sounds like he didn't like her prophecies. What did she tell him that he didn't like to hear? I keep going back to Malway's fake prophecy earlier in the book when she says, the gods must be obeyed lest House Dabara fall. Did Adina say that House Dabara was going to fall and Bellicon refused to believe it? Because as Kingfisher reminds Bellicon, Adina was an oath-bound fae, so she had to be telling the truth. There were no fucking lies.
I agree that there is more to the story about Adina and her oracle power. I still think that the other prophecy was supposed to be fake.
I think it was supposed to be fake, but it turned out not to be fake.
Maybe Adina ensured what she shared with Bellicon was not the powerful insights he sought, and that's what made her useless to him. I do agree, though. I think that she told him things that he did not want to hear. And again, I go back to Malcolm thinking Adina was a thorn in his side. Well, yes, a lot of that probably has to do with magically protecting Fisher. I wonder if it also ties into when she was married to Bellicon and he was secretly working with Malcolm.
Oh, possibly.
Yeah.
What if she saw him working with Malcolm and she was like ready to spread the good news and he didn't like that, so he killed her?
Oh, man.
Fucking Bellicon. Again, more Kingfisher wanting to kill Madra. I am officially going to declare dying on the hill that Kingfisher himself will kill Madra next book.
Yep, I agree with you. He will definitely be the one to kill her, and I love how she is so scared of him. You don't not kill someone after a line like, quote, fear the shadows, bitch. I'm made of them. One night soon, I'll climb out of one and slit your fucking throat.
Hot! Hot!
I bet next book that, yes, they are going to Zilvarin to kill Madra and get all the silver that is secretly in Zilvarin, the Silver City. The fact that there are normal Fae guards here from the Winter Palace who are uncomfortable with what they are being forced to do. What?
What happened at the Winter Palace?
I wonder if Bellicon's people, like his guards, will turn on him as they see what's happening. Or did his inner circle, again, like these guys, already know, and now they're like, shit, they're seeing it all in action and realizing what they have signed up for.
I don't think they already knew. I think that they're just following their king because it's what they're supposed to do.
I wonder if during the attack, it was kind of like you're either with me or you're fucked.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. Ooh, bad. That's bad. All right, friends, it is time to enter Rusarius's library. Don't forget your crackers, where each episode Lexi will guide us through a world-building topic to help us deepen our understanding of this world and its magic.
Today's Rusarius's library topic is the history of the blood curse and how the Dianthus line fits into it. I can already tell you that we're only scratching the surface here. Thousands of years ago, the Fae were inflicted with a blood curse. Rumor is that the witches are the source of the blood curse, though at least the Balkadir clan denies any involvement and feel that they have proved their innocence when they helped find the cure. We know that the curse has caused many to distrust all witches, and as Lorith puts it, quote, dragon lovers. They're the reason we're in this mess in the first place. If it weren't for them, there wouldn't even be any vampires. But a blood curse on the Fae, what does that mean? In simplest terms, the blood curse turned Fae into vampires. It elongated their teeth so they could bite their victims and drain them. They needed to drink blood in order to maintain their immortality. This is why there aren't any humans around here anymore. A long time ago, the Fae drained all the millions of humans in Avelia, drinking them dry of their blood due to uncontrollable bloodlust. Malcolm was the very first to be affected by the curse thousands of years ago. When the cure was discovered, many of the Avelian Fae took it because they were horrified by the monsters they'd become. But there were those, like Malcolm, who preferred being a monster and chose not to take the cure and thus stay immortal with dark power. Over the centuries, Malcolm killed off others who kept the curse too, until he was the only OG. It's believed that Malcolm ingested their power somehow. The rumor spread because he is millennia old, undying, never aging. Every year he survives, he grows in strength and capability. His venom is potent beyond imagination. For instance, when one of his lords bites a victim, they can drink and sate their thirst without killing. If they bite the same human a number of times, eventually they become enthralled. This means the victim becomes bound to the vampire who bit them. They are mindlessly devoted to their needs. Inevitably, when their master grows bored, they drain them, and then their victim dies. 3 days later, they rise and become feeders. The difference with Malcolm, though, is that he himself only needs to bite someone once to create a thrall. We will also learn this is the case for his number 2, Tal, but he keeps his strength hidden. Malcolm's venom is so lethal, only 1 drop is needed to fuck somebody up. Once his venom is inside someone, there are 2 choices. Number 1, they drink from Malcolm and become something like one of his lords, enthralled to him. Or number 2, they refuse to drink from him, or he refuses to let them, and they die and return as a feeder. Now let's talk about the cure to the blood curse. It was the last true king of Avelia, Ruick Dianthus, Carrion's father, who charged 5 witch families with the task of finding the cure to the curse. Of these 5, the Balkadir clan was instrumental in breaking the curse. This is the same clan that Ishabal is heir to. How they figured out how to break the curse, we aren't sure. But we do know one thing. Ruick's blood was used to create the blood curse that allowed Malcolm to become a vampire. And a vampire cannot drink from the living members of the bloodline that created them, nor can they enthrall them. So, isn't this interesting? Ruick's blood was used to create the blood curse, and he was the one who sought how to find the cure. But even with the curse lifted, all Fae still have traces of their vampire fangs, and they are still functional. But because Fae don't need blood to maintain immortality anymore, the using of these fangs have gone behind closed doors. It's a sex thing. We also know that Finran, Fisher's father, studied the blood curse for decades. Why and what he learned, we don't know. But I'm very curious about Papa Finran's research. And that is Rosarius' library. Also, I really hope Rosarius is still alive after that Winter Palace assumed attack. I'm very concerned for our boy.
Let us close out this episode with prancing through the snow with Onyx and sharing some of our favorite moments from this stretch of chapters. I love Simon the sword, saying, quote, "More jokes, give us more jokes." Like, I can hear it and see this so clearly.
Can't you just see him and Carrion just chilling and hanging out? Like, man, his plant is just going to be third wheeling their relationship now.
Kingfisher is the king of disses, saying to Madra that he will put her on the brink of death so hard that it'll be like she never existed in the first place. Quote, "And you'll live on at my behest, suffering for all of eternity, and no one will know and no one will care." Damn, dude.
I love how he makes her scared, even when he is captured by them like that.
In the height of intensity with everyone during the story of Gilthry, Malcolm dramatically asks the group a rhetorical question of what made Kingfisher finally leave the labyrinth. And Carrion says, quote, "You bored him to fucking tears and he couldn't take it anymore."
Speaking of Carrion, I love how Malcolm was like, "Something smells off about you." Well, it's because Carrion is glamored to look like a human. So I bet that off smell is the glamour, or maybe even Carrion's special Dianthus blood that is a threat to Malcolm. The best part is Carrion's reply launching into his story. Well, there were these water sprites, and man, this moss really gets up in there.
He's gonna be such a good king someday. I can't wait. Okay, so this is not a favorite moment. This is more like a thank God I don't live in Zelvarin moment. Because apparently there's sand trap spiders the size of dinner plates that numb your skin with their saliva and then eat your fingers off while you're sleeping. I would never sleep.
So, would you rather live in Zelvarin and go to sleep knowing that these things are around, or would you rather be in the maze where you could come upon Morthriel?
I can't believe I'm saying this. I think I'd rather Morthriel. Because A, I'd be awake, so it's not like the unknown. Anyone who has anxiety knows what I'm talking about. The fear of the unknown is deep.
Oh my gosh, I would probably choose the dinner plate spiders, because at least those you kill and they don't fucking come back.
Yeah, but at least you can learn how to overcome Morthriel and get past him, and someday you'll make it to the center of the maze and then you don't have to worry about him anymore. Speaking of Morthriel, in the midst of running into Morthriel, because they cannot move, but Kingfisher knows his girl needs a little bit of help with this scary monster, he hooks his little pinky finger around hers. I am such a sucker for any time in a story where there's pinky hugs. I love that so much. Last but not least, Carrion being very self-aware when Sarah snaps at him that he can direct them to the Quicksilver if he wants. And then he says, quote, "You're right. I apologize. I'm just a little on edge right now. I'm not my best self."
I love him so much. You know what? I am officially going to give him Best Side Character of All Time award.
Whoa, those are big words.
I know. I awarded it to him for 2024, and I love him so much.
I feel like he's going to win it for
character.
2025.
Yes.
Brimstone.
Yes.
Wow. Honorable mention to Riddick Gamlin.
I do love my boy Riddick, but Carrion is... I'm
Carrion's
sorry.
good.
Carrion's Carrion.
Carrion's Carrion.
All right, friends. Thank you so much for listening to episode 5 of our Quicksilver Deep Dive.
Next Monday, we are finishing out this book with episode 6, covering chapters 44 and 45.
I cannot believe we're already coming up on our last Quicksilver episode.
I know.
This is such a fun deep dive. Also, fun fact, everybody, we originally were going to include those last 2 chapters in today's episode, and I think we're all very glad that we did not do that. We would love to give the biggest warm welcome to our newest Feral fans. Thank you so much for being here.
Welcome, Caitlin Z, Caitlin H, and Anna, aka Joe's mom. Welcome.
Yes, and if you're like, hey, I want my name shouted out on the podcast and be showered with all this love too, join our fan club at fantasyfangirls.com/fan club. The link is also in the show notes.
Thank you, as always, to our master librarian, aka our content researcher, Brooke, and of course, our executive producer, aka our sanity manager and co-host of the Fantasy Fan Fellas, dropping this Wednesday, Hayden.
Can I just say, Hayden has been such a trooper lately. There have been so many extra episodes to edit. He has been doing the outlines for his own show. We love you so much, and just round of applause for you and all of your work that you've been doing lately. We are very active on social media with weekly trivia, book guides, and lots more. So please be sure to follow us on Instagram and /or TikTok at Fantasy Fangirls Pod. And if you're watching this on YouTube, trust me, this is a very good episode to watch on YouTube. Pretty please hit that subscribe button to keep following along, Nicole. And same goes for Fantasy Fan Fellas, to give them a follow at Fantasy Fan Fellas to get all the updates on the new show where Hayden and Steven deep dive into Mistborn, kicking off November 5th.
While you're hitting buttons, please do not forget to hit that 5-star button to rate the podcast on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. And if you're feeling extra generous, writing a little love note in that review section. It is one of the best things you can do, not only for this podcast, but for any podcasts you listen to. And last but not least, friends, share this episode with your fellow Quicksilver buddies. If you have a friend who's arachnophobic, this is a great episode to send to them, to give them a nightmare during this week.
All right, friends, thank you again so much. We will see you for next week's final episode. Bye-bye.
Bye. You think she's dead. Okay.
Yes! Yes, I finally say yes to something.
Lexi, your track record with thinking people are dead is not great, so I'm going to just point that out.
Just going to have some watery bowels after this. Especially after taking that widow's bane. Oh my God. I'm so sorry to our listeners for this episode.